Internet friends, and welcome to, well, last week was the final episode, so what's the opposite of penultimate? Post-ultimate? Welcome to the post-ultimate episode of Masks of Nyarlothotep.
Final V2. Final V2.
This is, we have more endings than Return of the King. That is our goal. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a lighter, sillier. Well, no, I don't know if it's going to be sillier. We're pretty sillier
than what we usually do.
But, this is a chance for you guys in the chat to ask questions, both of the players, of me, things you want to know about the module, things they missed, things that I know. I'm already anticipating Talon Soren's Australia questions. I know he was deep in that. And it's also a chance for the players to ask some questions. Before we get started, just a few quick announcements. Obviously, we're not rolling any dice tonight, but that doesn't mean that Birds of Paradise are not at hand. The official dice of the Great Dane Society. I have got a whole set right here. Birds of Paradise, you can go to their website and use our code, probably chaotic. You'd think I'd remember it by now. Use our code to get a nice little discount off of there. It's getting close. The shipping window is closing, so get those orders in if you want those dice stocking stuffers in there. Andrea, congratulations on all the success this year with the Kickstarter. It's all good stuff. Very exciting. So Birds of Paradise, we love them. They will remain the official dice of the Great Dane Society. Who knows? Maybe by the time we start up again in the new year, we might all be using new sets of Birds of Paradise. Who knows?
Ooh.
Very exciting. Nord Games does great, wonderful things for, sadly, mostly D&D. Although we've shown how you can use them in Carbon 2185. I remembered the name of the game. We've shown how you can use them in that. Any sort of game that uses a similar mechanic. I mean, really, you could use them in just about any of the iterations of D&D or many different games. Their luck deck, their crit deck, all of their monster stuff. It's a great way to play Dungeons and Dragons without giving Wizards of the Coast any of your money, which really is a good thing. So support Nord Games. We've got a code with them, I think, that gets you a nice little chunk off too. Who was our other sponsor? I've blanked on our third. Well, there you go. We have, as always, we have a semi-full week of televised entertainment for you this week. So I don't know how many of you know, but sadly, James has sprained his voice in his day job. He was filming a short film about the Avatar, the Last Airbender thing, and apparently got a little exuberant and did some damage to his voice that T has not healed yet. So there was not a Rime of the Frost Maiden this week. Monday, the game is it's minute to minute. We're gonna look for James updates on social media as we wait until the last minute to see, is he going to show up and are all of his characters going to sound like Kathleen Turner? So here's what I'm thinking with this is what we're gonna.
Yeah, this is last week. Literally, we're like, please shut up. He's like, oh, I don't know if I can make it or not. Blah blah blah. I was like, stop talking. I was like, here's the thing: if your voice hurts, just say no and then shut it. Don't continue to yip yap.
And as he was doing it, there were probably like 3 different voices as he was doing it.
He's got the puppets out. And
oh yeah, here we go.
So if James, against doctor's orders, let's be clear, the man is a hero. If he can somehow fling off that blanket and make it to that chair, he will be here. By gosh. So stay tuned on Pins and Needles to see if on Monday, like a thing that is resilient, James has risen and is back to lead that game on its way. Tuesday, probably, it's the theme for this week, the Chaos Agents are playing. Nobody's sick. They're just all kind of, they've all had one too many rum balls or something. I don't know what's it.
Ooh.
One too few, I say.
Too few, man. For all the chaos that we're going through, too few.
It's true. So Tuesday, probably the Chaos Agents. And then Saturday, Rime of the Frost Maiden, probably, depending on James. And then, there are a few guarantees in this life. But if you tell me to show up somewhere, by gosh, I am showing up there. So next Saturday, at our normal time, we'll have a shortened show. We're going to do it live. Because, we don't believe in nets on the Great Dane Society. So next Saturday at the normal time, we will be doing character creation for season 2. So you'll get to see how people build their characters. You'll get to see how we sort of connect stories and that sort of thing. You'll hear more about season 2 in a little while. So Saturday could be a doubleheader, but we will definitely be there because, frankly, I don't have a life. Right. So seriously, Tom, back when he was still, he wanted to run his one shot for this group, but he kept saying, "But Ezra's never not there." Yeah, unless I go to Europe, I have, if 90% of success is showing up. And so I always show up. That is a weird thing about me. So thank you again for last week, for the insanity of all the support that you gave us last week. We had a great crowd. It was fun to see names that we hadn't seen in a while that showed up for the last one. I was unable. I still have 8 bits I have to spend today, so I will be re-rolling everything I roll today. I tried to spend them, but I just couldn't. We really appreciate the love and the support. It is awesome to spend part of our Geekend with you. That is always a special thing for me, and it's going to be weird to have a few Saturdays off. I'm not sure, although we have one less than I thought. So, it's becoming less and less weird as we go.
It's literally 2 Saturdays.
Wow. Well, all right. You really took the bloom off that rose.
Sorry.
I'm all excited. I'm like, wow, I'm going to get a vacation.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome. I wonder, so chat is currently excoriating me for not killing enough of you. And I'm just hoping that somebody in their 5 years thing dies. That's really, that's my only hope.
That was possible.
So let's start there. Last week, at the end of things, I asked each of the players, ooh, that's a great question. I'm writing that one down.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can all
yes,
see
every single one of us.
I'm not looking at the questions.
Probably.
Yeah, Squirrel on the Run's answer is exactly right.
Exactly. I was about to say the same thing.
Okay, come on, you guys. I'm not looking at that stuff.
Well, then look at it. It's get looked into it.
All right. So at the end of last session, I asked each player to spend a little time thinking. Little did I know. See, here's why I don't play these games anymore. Because I would literally 10 minutes before the game be like, I wonder what happened 5 years ago. Meanwhile, I had characters like writing me, asking me questions about like, what do you think about this? And if, how would this have, and I'm like, I don't care. It's over. Come on. So A, you're all better people than I am. And B, wow, you put way too much thought into all of this. So that's great because that's why this world works, because it takes my shoddy slapdash world building and then you breathe life into it and something magic happens. So 5 years from now, we magically touch base with many of the members of the Great Dane Society. And who wants to start us off with their coda?
Go for it.
Should I just go since I think mine?
Oh no, I mean Julie was.
All right, yeah, Julie, go ahead. Tell us about Professor Lamb. in 1931? What have those 5 years been like?
Well, I was hanging out with Holly and thinking about going, over to the Delta Green, but I didn't do that first. It just seemed like it was going to be boring. And I was hyped up on all this. This was awesome. I stopped time. I made somebody sick and I reversed it. I kept my head. I kept my head when it was getting all, everything was going down.
Terrible pun.
Yeah. Well, but so
Julie will not be joining us in season 2. We'd like to send our regrets.
Yeah, just wait. So, but then Emma reached out to her and said, "You know what? We could take what you've done and we could go on a crusade." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So Emma and I went on some, and I'm sure Emma can give us some more background on our adventures. And they were really fun. And then I said,
So should I fill in some of the blanks to
and
get
then I was going to say, then yeah, can you go?
Okay.
Can you go? All right.
So Emma goes back to the Vatican now because mission accomplished. And I'm going to air quote that. As I air quoted much of my explanation to many of the cardinals as to what actually happened. There was a lot of yada, yada, yadas. And well, there's a lot of that in the explanation. But what really they kind of got hung up on was the fact that Joan had basically reversed time. And so that had given the Vatican an idea where instead of just trying to subversively dominate the world, to overtly dominate the world by, so basically I, as the agent of the church, went to see Joan and made her an offer that she didn't refuse. Italian verbance, saying that, if you come work with us, to create the technology, to go back in time, we can go back. And the offer to Joan was the fact that if you go back in time, you can get the artifacts before they become artifacts, was the pitch. So that was the pitch in the short. And so at some point, Joan came back and we did have a couple escapades. And so we went back in time. And obviously my mission was to, besides help Joan get artifacts, to maintain the dominance of the church through the ages, was essentially what Emma's underlying.
So long, Martin Luther.
Yeah, exactly. Martin who? So I'm sorry, Joan. So that's where we met and we did a couple escapades, Joan. So if you want to pick it up from there.
Wait, did you guys kill Martin Luther? Because I now want to run a game where you're.
So if do you want to talk about? Because I was going to talk about at some point we had some escapades, but one of them went a little haywire.
Wrong, perhaps.
One of them.
Only one. Only one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then the knife slipped and, shit happened.
We there was a whole bunch of them. I wasn't sure which one you wanted to highlight, but
whichever one had the best item, which was the best artifact. Was it the knife that slit Jesus's side? Was it the oh God, I was like, what's the box with the 10 commandments in it? The Ark of the Covenant? That one?
Oh, that would, I was like, yes, please.
Oh, the best part is Emma's in the Vatican going, what's that box? The box with the 10 commandments. Oh, what?
Well, because Indiana Jones went and stole.
And I had that nice staff with bone on it.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point when we were in a big fight, Mary Magdalene got in the way.
See, this is where I would have been like, shit happened and she accidentally got stabbed. I'm not saying it was my fault. I'm not saying I was there.
Isn't Mary Magdalene got in the way a major tenet of Catholicism?
Exactly. But then she wasn't in the way anymore. And at that point, I was like, oh, this is not working very well for me. And I think there were some explosions.
Was this pre or post Immaculate Conception?
Post Immaculate Conception.
Wrong Mary, though.
Yeah,
no, we're talking. Yeah.
Post explosives as well.
Yes. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is getting to be too intense for me. I thought it was going to be fun, too intense. And so I used my powers to go back to Holly and say, hey, this these guys at Delta Green, they sound pretty cool. Let's work with them.
Yeah, you know what'd be less intense? The United States government.
Oh,
Less
no,
intense than Emma back in time. Yeah.
So to kind of fill that in,
Yes.
Hollister ended up setting up his own branch of Delta Green, somewhat isolated on Grey Dragon Island, to keep it under wraps for as long as possible. And he runs things in the very boring military way. Like it's welcome to the bureaucracy.
Yeah, there's to get a Mythos tome, you have to fill out paperwork. It's a whole...
Yes. And so
Who started for you British fans, he started the Laundry.
Not familiar.
The Laundry is a series of it's actually a game, but it was novels first, and the idea is that it is English mundane bureaucracy brought to the supernatural. So there's like a bureau of the supernatural where everyone shows up wearing their gray suits and all, and just the incompetence that bureaucracy can bring to things.
Oh, I
he
love
said,
it.
looking at his wife's workplace, just the filling out forms in triplicate and that sort of thing. I now know the time delay because I just heard Rachel laugh at that.
So I was more than happy to not do the Vatican style. I'd come over and work with Holly again. I was I didn't have to beg too hard for him to take me back, because he said his door was always open. But I did have to ingratiate myself with the rest of the team and be that proper person so I could get my hands on more data. So I did. I became that proper person. I put on my professor persona. And so professor, and that way I could be that person that they needed.
I'm trying to decide if this is schizophrenia or like dissociative disorder. I mean, maybe some of column A and some of column B.
Yes, schizophrenia. Yes, I could be the Joan, or I could be.
And
Professor.
so how does Joan deal with mind-numbing bureaucracy?
Well, I mean, there is the occasional field work. And it was spelled out that the bureaucracy is put on hold when stuff actually matters. So,
yeah, I think part of the thing that I talked with the characters of the players about is that in my mind, some of the repercussions of this is that the Cold War started now in 1926, and it's based around the mythos. And the first two actors are the US and Japan, who are, have start having this conflict about controlling mythos objects and that sort of thing. And so, your base on Grey Dragon Island, could be in some danger. It might. We could have a scene where Flint and some Japanese mythos ninjas invade Grey Dragon Island and are fought off by the forces of Captain Rogers, Commander Rogers. So that idea of the Mythos Cold War, which frankly is one that I want to use as a world, playing a little bit later, I think there's a lot of possibilities there. So Joan, 5 years finds you pretty much working in Delta Green in Hollister's unit.
Yep.
All right. Amy, you started us with Emma's stuff, so.
So besides drunk sword fighting with Pontius Pilate and accidentally stabbing Mary Magdalene, and now she's a saint, and so women have equal rights in the church now. I mean, oops. I mean, the Pope should have known if he'd have sent me back in time. Shit like that would have happened just because.
I mean, how aware is the Vatican of your meddling in the time stream?
Oh, they're very aware. And then they keep sending me back to go fix it, and it just gets infinitely worse.
Well, worse with quotes around it, because
And again, too, these are all parallel universes, like I keep explaining to them. You know, it's not like there's just one box to destroy people.
This is the danger in telling someone like Emma they can't die.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the multiverse was a big part of our story. And here's the first spoiler for the kids at home. None of that multiverse stuff is in the module. There's nothing about multiple anythings. There's nothing about constants, none of that. That was all necessitated by the cast change that we went through like a year ago, where we lost some of our players, and we essentially had to do a reboot. And you know, I came up with that silly idea. Well, actually, the funny part is Amy rolled the fumble before we knew any of that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So the crowbar to the box happens, and I, not knowing any of what was soon to happen, was like, I'm going to wait till next week to tell you what this means. And I was thinking of some, you know, silly things and that sort of thing. Little did I know that it would be 4 months. That week would be 4 months, and it would lead to a mostly new cast and having to justify all of that. And so that, you know, that's the first little, that wasn't supposed to happen Easter egg, and there are many of them. That box, so that box actually had parts, something that you guys never really dealt with, wanted to deal with, was that this was all of the weapon that they were making was being manufactured in England and shipped to China. And so that warehouse was full of pieces for the weapon. And so if you hadn't blown it up, there, you know, you could find the address of the warehouse in China and all this stuff that you could, and there were also links there to take you to Australia. But you know, I think it worked out pretty well. I actually was very happy with how the reboot went, and I was surprised. I'd talked with a few of the players, and I wasn't sure about rerunning New York. I thought about, you know, let's just zip through this and kind of do it narrative, and people were like, no, let's play it. And actually I was really happy with how it turned out playing through it the second time. I thought it added a neat thing to it.
No, I don't know if I was happy, because I felt like the second time around we had to get a win, and I still felt like New York wasn't a win. You know, we didn't save a convicted man, or a falsely convicted man.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a rough scene. That was definitely, you know, Talon and others who were like, well, you let the players off easy. You know, I far prefer, the players know this, I've said this many times, like death is absolution. Like killing somebody, no, make them live with the awful things they've done, you know. And that's why we took that scene, and the Black Pharaoh wanted to make sure that they experienced that poor man frying on the electric chair to give them a sense of the repercussions of their stupidity. And that to me is so much more interesting than just, you know, like, oh good, I killed a player. But you know,
you'd rather we suffer some.
Yeah. No, I'm all about the suffering.
Yeah.
We'll see. Season 2 could be a little different because for reasons. I mean, I think that's a running theme of this game, is that you guys needed a win, and you had the astounding ability to to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory over and over.
Why is that not a title?
So Emma becomes a time-traveling
agent,
time-traveling religious schism, it sounds like.
Pretty much. Well, and just to let everybody know the backstory, I forgot what game we used to play with Ezra that I used to kid about him, and I would make a series called Time Pope. Like, I was bound and determined like 2 years ago to make a cartoon called Time Pope.
There's a board game I don't remember the name of it, but it's essentially liar's dice with player powers. And you are all cardinals trying to become pope. And one of you is like the Tempest. There's like these different sects
it's a temporal
of the temporal. And I always call him Time Pope. And then Amy and I started riffing on like the bad 80s, sitcom that would be Time Pope. And, the Pope in sort of a Father Guido Sarducci way would be like, and what are the Harlem Globetrotters doing in ancient Rome? Mamma mia! It was every episode was going to be Time Pope and like ridiculous guest star. Dick Van Patten, what are you doing here in the Pleistocene era? My goodness, And Time Pope was just gonna.
Oh my god!
Outstanding.
What?
That is outstanding. Amy, it's your gig.
It's my math time.
It's your math time.
J. Matthews 85. Thank you. Finally, for once, thank you for giving us, the players, 2,000 bits, because apparently it doesn't matter now. So,
and that's why he's my second favorite Twitch user.
He helps us snatch defeat from victory.
Of course, the Baroness, my always my first. 2 weeks in a row now, Rachel hasn't given you bits, so she's now my third favorite Twitch user.
Ooh.
Rachel, you know what to do.
Yeah. So what did Alexandria do after we basically stabbed Sai's character? So we stabbed Lady Jezebel.
That was such a thing. Anyway, so yeah, Alexandria, to her, the win felt too easy. At the end of it, it was all like, we did all this build up and everything. And then it was just, oh, it's over. And the bomb is gone. And some weird alien things that I can't even pretend to begin to understand took it. And who knows how that's going to affect things in the future. So she has this address on the back of a letter. And at first she wasn't quite willing to go follow it because she was angry and hurt and all of the things, but she had a very long conversation with Hollister that Nick and I actually wrote out the conversation that they had. And maybe at some point I'll write it up and put it in the Discord, but I'll condense it to basically him convincing her to go and follow Donald. She had come to him initially and said, I need something to do. I'm going to go kill cultists, point me in the right direction, and I can be more effective. And he basically was like, we're not sending someone as mentally broken as you out into the middle of things. That is not Delta Green's way. So they came to a compromise. She goes back to, she goes to Ireland for a year, starts building a life. And if she comes back in a year, he'll have work for her. So she went to Ireland after she had after she asked Hollister to pull a couple of strings and help her find a good violin. And when I said that in the conversation with Nick, the pun wasn't intended. This time it is. But Fiona
will not be joining us in season 2.
Yes, there it is.
So if you're interested in playing Call of Cthulhu.
But she did get a very good violin, not a Stradivarius, obviously, but she was able to get a good violin through Hollister and take the long way into Ireland, stopping off in Italy along the way to replace her stilettos because, well, they got left behind mysteriously in Africa, and she has a very particular thing that she likes. So she went off to Ireland. There was a series of conversations with Donald, some of them involving more broken furniture in various ways than she would like to admit. Some of them involving at least one of them involving a pub fight. She was angry. She was very angry. But she did eventually come to a compromise with him, where she was basically like, I will stay and be here with you. But once a year, I need to go and sharpen my claws. Basically, I'm going to go and work with Delta Green for about a month every year. And if you're not okay with that, I can disappear. It's fine. He agreed. And so once a year for a month, she shows up at Grey Dragon Island. Hollister hands her a folder and she disappears again. And problems just disappear, strangely. Right at about year 2, she when she shows up, she has a thin gold band on her left ring finger. She doesn't talk about it. No one asks. And about year 4, she when she comes to Delta Green, she's only got about she only spends about 2 weeks going out and killing things. And year 5, she doesn't show up again. She just sends a letter and says, "I think I found what I needed," and just stays there in the cottage in Ireland. She lets Emma know where she is, and that's about it. And just quietly disappears. Alexandria Hartford dies.
That's a shame because I think Alexandria Hartford probably cleaned up a couple of Agent Emma's messes. some historical oopses.
It's interesting you say that, because if you go back to Donald's leaving, Emma was actually the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think it would be a really interesting, my guess is that if she does do some work from Emma, she's doing it quietly.
Oh yeah.
Because, that was, I think, one of the most interesting parts of that letter, which, again, to pull back the blinds, Tom found out when he had that conflict and he would have to stop immediately. And then he wrote that letter. So that was all his voice and his way of writing out that character, which I thought was brilliant. And he wanted to hit some of the previous notes from things that people had said, bringing back the quote, that prophecy from old Bundari and things like that. It was just a great story note that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
A good writing off a character is hard, and especially when you're trying to do it without their voice.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding. I think that's great.
Yeah. But for the chat, there are 2 people in this universe that Alexandria trusts absolutely, and it's Donald for fairly obvious reasons. And it's Emma because Emma was in the other universe with her. She only tangentially trusts anyone else, but Emma gets it in a way that no one else in this universe can. So, I mean, she trusts Emma, and Emma's if you'll remember, Emma was the only one that she expressed concern about how Donald was acting as he was starting to get more and more erratic.
Mm-hmm. Well, and was it the same when Joan was starting to really become obsessive with occult items?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny that, Delta Green's like, we don't want to put someone as broken you out of the field. Now, Professor Lamb.
I also feel like Professor Lamb could be the next villain of the next chapter of Delta Green. If you think about how cartoons sort of play out villains, and the fact that it's oh, I'm a great soldier, but on the inside you're scheming for the things you want. At some point you could literally lose your mind and be the actual villain to Delta Green. You could be you could be the Cobra Commander.
I mean, it's as simple as, Joan remembers that she can, use people as batteries, and she starts using people as batteries. And, that is not the action of someone who has the best intentions for humanity.
Yeah. And while Alexandria was certainly willing to work with that, she didn't trust. And that was never anything between players, obviously. But
no. But Joan, she only tried to take it from people, a little bit at a time, or people who were bad,
Yeah, and Alexandria was like,
yeah,
you're a scattershot gun. I can't stand anywhere near you.
And I'm like, oh, says the assassin.
I am very precise. I choose who I stick in.
No, I know, but yeah, it's the assassin.
Well, that was Joan's, Joan's kind of inner monologue.
Exactly.
Of someone who kills people for a living is giving me moral, So Hollister, we've talked a little bit about what you're doing. You started this new branch of Delta Green.
Yeah, branch. Some people were saying, branch, what do you mean? it's that's the wrong word for it, but it is.
You're just a base. You are
Yeah.
Delta Green has established a base that you have control over.
Yeah.
In Grey Dragon Island.
Yeah.
So, does the United States have an ongoing diplomatic relationship with the Migo?
Not officially. It's one of those things where, especially after Hollister would keep up, would keep in contact with them. He wouldn't go against Rogers, but he would probably do things like, "Hey, we're going to do a one-time exchange. We'll see you next year for the next one-time exchange."
Yeah,
Christmas.
The Migo having the Migo having the super weapon is not something Rogers is fond of.
I mean, Rogers still has the plans, so
it's true, and the U.S.
Here's the other main thing that Hollister paid attention to, is that there are multiple warheads on the island. The Migo took one of them. So Hollister was fine telling everyone, like, "Oh, they took the weapon. Everyone clear out. We're going to do the ritual. Everything's fine." And then he gets like the people who, like people from Delta Green that he trusts, and he's like, "You guys need to search this place. You need to be very careful. I think there's 2 more warheads on the island, right?"
Think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, no, that America.
I think World War II starts over Grey Dragon Island.
Wouldn't surprise me.
The Japanese.
We wouldn't keep them there. We'd clear everything off. And
but the power source is there.
Right.
That's the problem. The power source that produces the stuff is there. Yeah. So
because
Grey Dragon Island is immensely important still.
Because once the bloated woman gets sealed away, she's still there.
Somebody asked what happened to the bloated woman. So
he would have. I don't think members of this team would have sealed her, but Delta Green would have done it. They have all the information for it.
So I'll be honest. When I run each week, I have like 3 bullet points. You can't really see this, but I have like 3 bullet points of scenes I want to have happen. And one of the bullet points I knew for the last episode, I knew I wanted to do the derelict destroyer scene, and I knew that the Duchess was going to be on there. But my original plan was that the Duchess would be the bloated woman. And that would be, because in my transactional D&D brain, I was like, all right, 3 hours to land this plane. That's like scene, fight, scene, finale, And so the fight was going to be the Duchess becoming like, as you got close to the island, Lady Jezebel would say something like, "Oh, well, first you're going to need to deal with my friend," and the Duchess would like explode into this horrible, awful thing and all this stuff. Yeah. But then you guys were already going and just in the flow of things, I changed it to be the deep ones attacking the boat. And so, sometimes you come up with these ideas and then during the flow of the game, you just sort of go the other direction.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because that's what I thought when we found her. I thought, oh crap, okay, we got to take this thing and put it in the, but I did like, so it was good to switch it up. So I wasn't like, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So interestingly, actually so in the module as written, the ritual of the Capstone Ritual is only done in Egypt.
Interesting.
So there are other rituals and things that can happen in the other areas, but one of the ways the game can end is just, but some people use the Capstone Ritual in Egypt as sort of the climax of things. There's sort of three different ways this module, well, 4 if you count the world ending, but 3 different ways this module ends. There's usually either a climax in at Grey Dragon Island, but usually that happens when the ritual is going on in January. You guys forestalled that. There is a finale at the Mountain of the Black Wind with the bloody tongue, or there's the finale with the Black Pharaoh. And I talked a little bit about this in the Discord, but after the Black Pharaoh offers a great opportunity to have sort of a villain that the players can interact with. The bloody tongue and the bloated woman less so, because they're aspects of Nyarlathotep that are just bestial. And so, that's why I then had to play up the human sort of, the human lackeys, Penhew and all those guys.
Yes.
And really, I think it's better if you're dealing with the extra planar kind of craziness, because you can bring a sort of like, oh, you're fleas to me, and have it be believable. Whereas, like if a human sorcerer is saying that, he's still human, even if that happens. And so that kind of, that's a challenge in the module as written. And we can talk about how things went all sorts of pear-shaped in Egypt in terms of the story is written and things that happened there. As Jay Matthews is pointing out, in this edition, the new edition of the book, Carl Stanford is a cameo, and it's actually an Easter egg for old Call of Cthulhu fans, because he is the big bad guy in another big campaign, old one. And not at all in this one. He's just kind of a quick shot there, but because you don't have that kind of what's the word for an evil face character? I don't know.
A foil? Well,
a foil. There you go. Foil would be the perfect word. Yeah, because you don't have that foil. That I think that for me personally is so important in storytelling. I mean, there's something to be said for just the beast that's out of control and that sort of thing, but
it's not reasonable, and it's not as much fun to spar with.
Yeah, that's
and it's one note. It's one note. Oh, great question. Did Time Pope Emma get a Shakespeare phone?
Of course she did.
Good.
That's
She's
awesome.
like all
That's
sweat
how Emma
now.
learned who Shakespeare was.
Yeah, pretty much.
I wanted to. Oh,
I
go ahead.
wanted to thank the Baroness for 1,000 gold pieces for 2 years of wonderful storytelling and
Oh.
characters to laugh and cry
Aw.
over. Thank you.
The Baroness
Fine.
is one of the few people to have sat in this metaphorical chair. She, there was, last Christmas? Was it last Christmas? I think it was. Or was it 2 Christmas? It was.
I don't know.
It was Christmas.
COVID.
I know that because I was coming from the Nutcracker, and we were in traffic, and so the Baroness ran the start of an adventure, and it was outstanding. I was so happy. That was her second cameo. Longtime fans she was part of my favorite bit. I love the old Police Squad and the freeze frame bit where everybody freezes and something goes on behind you. And the Baroness did a cameo there. That was an episode that we taped because I was in Hawaii, I think.
So I wanted to respond to something with dealing kind of with sanity and the numbers, because it was mentioned that Alexandria was mentally broken. Then they were like, wait, you had so much sanity. That's like one of the things I like the least about like the sanity stuff in Call of Cthulhu, because like everything about Silvano in particular, like the rolls that he made were arbitrary. Like remember the scene where I smashed the chair against the guy and just went in, and he lost it. There was no sanity roll needed. He was complete in flight mode. But like talking with Alexandria at the end, no, she was she was just continuously looking for the next fight. She was stuck in a cycle. She was and it was after the big battle and just not being able to deal with that. So no, she was the character actually had.
Yeah. Well, and to speak to that, numbers aside, she's been through hell in the last, 6 months. And yeah, she's a little bit more grounded now because she has this relationship to fall back on. She's actually happy for the first time in a long time. And then she lost that and had to go and hunt that down if she wanted it. So she was very much in a place of, the numbers were great and nothing would make her break and run, immediately, but she wasn't in a good place. She wasn't a healthy person. She didn't start a healthy person. You aren't an assassin if you are a healthy person.
Well, just the fact that she wouldn't break and run, when there were points where it's like, that's the sane thing to do.
Right.
Like, that was a part of the cycle. And then the Baroness has a question for you as well while you're talking, if you want to.
Sure, I see it. The question is, what was the thought process for Alexandria keeping her vocal damage from one world to the next? So Ezra asked me on stream, and Ghislaine and I actually talked briefly about this, that whether or not, because it's a new world, she's in a new body, did the incident with Francois happen, and does she still have that vocal damage? And I thought about it for a bit, because
Francois is still in the studio.
I think he is. And I did seriously consider whether or not to have that be healed, because I mean, being a semi-famous opera singer would open a lot of doors, and being able to go and like perform and things like that would make some things a lot easier. But I genuinely think that Alexandria losing her voice in Peru was a huge turning point for the character. It was the first time that she, and keep in mind, this was what, 1920? She would have been 22 or thereabouts. She was young when that happened. So she was on the zenith of her ability to, you know, she was a rising opera star. Hi, Thomas.
My God, Emma has really let herself go.
Hanging out with my worm. That's all.
I hate that thing.
By the way, Francois, a production of, you know, Slithy Tove makes us all these wonderful props. Francois is a creation of my lovely wife.
We love you. I hate Francois, but I have a personal visceral reaction, and that's the only reason.
And so, you know, I just want to quickly go back to something Nick said about sanity, because yeah, the sanity rules in Call of Cthulhu, you know, you have to find ways to make it not just hit points part 2.
Yeah.
And, you know, the actual number of your sanity to me is less important than where you are kind of in the arc of things. I'm not sure I'm going to do it, but there's a guy wrote an article for a Cthulhu site talking about in his game, he keeps track of all the characters' sanity, so they don't know what their sanity is, and he just says like, you really didn't like that, you know, and that to me is kind of interesting, but it takes away some player agency, which I'm not a big fan of, but yeah, I think that partly because I changed the sanity rules somewhat to make them a little less retrograde, because some of the concepts they use in the sanity rules are a little dated, and you know, some of the a little ham-handed, I guess I'll say. You know, I think that we're in a day and age where you want to treat mental health issues with a little more
Understanding
and respect. I mean, respect is, I guess, is the word I'd, you know, but just compassion maybe. And so, whereas when we were all playing, you know, we were playing our home game and somebody randomly drew kleptomania, it was hilarious. You know, that in modern times is a little less. And that's also, you know, one of the things that I think would be interesting to talk about is running a game on stream versus running a home game, and sort of the calibrations one has to make, or let me rephrase that, one should make when doing that, which is something that I was not I hadn't really thought about, and was had to sort of learn on the fly, as you know, I think we all.
I want to jump in really quickly and just kind of amend what I said with, like, I hate the sanity system, but that's because I'm keeping track inside my head. It's not a, like, I mean, granted, there's definitely things to criticize about it, but I'm not saying like the sanity system shouldn't be used for everyone. It's just for me in particular. It's like, no, I can drive myself crazy. Like when I roll the dice, I already know in my head like how the character's breaking and when they're gonna snap. And then there's times where like even the scene with Hollister trying to convince what is it, Alexa Chris?
Yeah.
Like in all seriousness, he would have. It's almost probably good that I rolled so poorly because his actual reaction probably would have been stronger and more detrimental than what Ezra kind of pushed him to do because of the limitations of the sanity.
Yeah.
So it's I don't need any help on that front. That's
that's an interesting, as a GM, you sort of know the players that you can give I think in every case, it's more interesting when the players come up with what is afflicting them. But speaking only in the abstract, you still run into, especially in cons, you still run into the player that, mainly D&D players, who are like, my character's Superman and nothing will bother them and everything's fine. And so here's an Easter egg for you. My little everything's fine saying comes from a con game, a Cthulhu game, 1990 something, at a con in on the peninsula, where I was running this game and this guy kept going like, whenever I'd say like, all right, make me a sand roll, he'd just go, no, everything's fine, no problem. And I started like mockingly saying it back at him because I was like, he just clearly didn't understand the idea of the game and was unwilling to make the bargain that you have to make to play Cthulhu, which is, we're all unraveling. And it's just, a Call of Cthulhu character is like a new car. As soon as you take it off the lot, it depreciates in value, and it's never going to be worth as much as it was when you rolled it up. And that's just sort of how the game works. And some people, many people, I hope, enjoy that journey. Mm-hmm. And, Nick in particular has a sense through many, 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 many different games of when his character is like, I don't know if there's anywhere to go here. So what Nick did with Flint and with Silvano, well, yeah, he's done several times before with characters where he's like, I don't have anything else. Or he makes the poor decision to run off by himself on an alien planet and save someone and, dies off screen.
Well, that was because he saw that character saw Emma. Yeah. Other Emma, long.
Which Emma?
Yeah.
2 or 3. He blamed himself for not being able to save her when she died. And like, he couldn't cope with that. And it's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't matter what his sanity is. Same thing with Silvano. Silvano left because he actually snapped. He had sanity left, but like, he was just not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah. Emma too. Like my sanity, I think I started in the 50s somewhere, and I'm down to 42, which is not that far. Like, I don't know if the scale, you know what I mean, between 0 and 100, that's not bad. But like, batshit crazy was definitely like my MO. You know what I mean? At some point where I'm bicycling around with a bunch of fucking grenades, you're kidding me, right? Like, that's a crazy person. That's a person who's like, everything's fine with explosives. Like, seriously?
Why not?
Yeah. No, my sanity was back to normal.
Yeah.
There's no way your character's like the numbers that your character shouldn't be the number that you end up at, if that makes sense.
That should have been the 5 years later. We read Emma in the obituary getting blown up. It's like,
she died as she lived, bicycling with explosives.
She died doing what she loved.
and to bring it back around a little bit, for the reason why I stuck with Alexandria losing her voice was because that was the beginning of that journey for her. That was where she started losing that control, because she'd had such tight control most of her life.
And was it psychological or was it actual? Because again, I didn't forget everything. Even if I was physically a different body, Emma wouldn't know I'm a different body. Like, she's not that smart to know that it was like, to me, I'm the same person in every single universe. Because
with the voice thing in particular, Ezra wanted to know if that same incident had happened in Peru, and my answer was yes, because it was such a big thing, and it was this thing that previous universe Alexandria could key into with this universe Alexandria in order to, not to be morbid, but take over her brain, because she did.
Jumping in just one more time, something that we forgot to mention, Hollister came clean to Alexandria about what happened in Kenya. That was a part of their talk. It was a part of like, here's why you need to calm down and not throw your life away.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me the way that, because I hadn't realized the way, until Nick and I had this conversation, I hadn't realized the way that Hollister saw it in particular, where he believed that there was another Alexandria left behind in Nitocris's head. I didn't realize that was how he was thinking of it. I was just like, one of the prices for this was losing memories. But I hadn't thought of it in the sense of, maybe this universe's Alexandria was left behind in Nitocris's head.
Mm.
Okay.
Tormented in a cage in that head. Who knows?
The way I interpreted it is that you would be like, with Modernize, it would be a split personality where one personality takes over while the other one isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So in that moment, so you'll notice at the temple, or after we did the temple, I didn't let up to Alexandria. I wasn't gonna put my sword away. I wasn't gonna do any of that because I was like, she's Nitocris right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, Hollister and I need to have a conversation as to when we're gonna kill her.
Yeah. And I was honestly waiting for that, because I, as the player, were watching you guys be really suspicious of Alexandria. I'm like, it's
Hollister wouldn't, because it's as soon as a move is made against Nitocris, basically how Hollister sees it is that Alexandria made the ultimate sacrifice, so a version of her could have the peaceful life. And that's one of the reasons why he was so adamant about talking her down and making amends with Donald.
And he turned out to be right. And she'd even at some point sent him a letter don't you dare be smug at me, but you were right.
And I want to.
He is very smug.
I want to drop some plaudits at Tiana's feet there, because I talk a big game about player agency, and I think there are examples where I was pretty good about saying, hey, I want to do this big thing to your character, I want to check it with you. I did not do that with the Nitocris thing. Literally came to me in a blue flash, as we were playing, and as anyone would, later on after we did it, Tiana was like, I'm a little uncomfortable with this isn't my character, that sort of thing. And played it like a pro, really got that dichotomy that was super important. But when I came up with the idea, which literally happened as they were having that conversation with Donald, where Donald, who made several deals and it didn't carry through on any of them, and the Oathbreaker stuff, which but I had, I was sort of coming up with this mechanical thing of when Nitocris would take over and that sort of thing. And really that was pretty artificial. It wasn't really going to happen, but I wanted the uncertainty there of I'm losing control, I'm going to lose control. Oh, geez, when I do this happened, that sort of thing. So again, props to Tiana for going along on the fly with my kind of blundering idea that really totally took everything away from her. But if you're going to do talk to your players beforehand, that's another thing that is tough on stream. But if I had when we talk about things that I would do differently, that's right up there in terms of sometimes that idea you have in the middle of something that's live on camera, maybe sit on that for a minute, you can come back to it.
But I think this group is mature enough to know that after the fact we can discuss it, and the fact that Ezra gives us the ability to retcon stuff. So I know for that one moment, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to conversation. Like Amy is gonna have to talk to Tiana about how do you feel if I kill your character?
Yeah.
Like, because my character will be forced at this X moment to kill you.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to have this discussion as players.
Mhm.
You know, so as opposed to being like, you know, in game, just whatever happens,
Yeah.
just roll with it, because you know at 9:30 we can have a discussion to say, okay, I was not a fan of this, and what do we do to fix our way out of here? Or
Yeah.
2 days later, come back to the group and say, you know what, I'm not crazy about this, and Silvana wants to come home.
Well, and for me, the whole Nitocris thing, speaking somewhat frankly, I think this comes back to what Ezra was talking about things that should be considered for as far as streams go. I didn't mind the body thing. I thought that was fascinating. I thought that was cool. And me being a non-binary person, I playing with the dysphoria of it, of being in the wrong body, was really interesting to me. The only thing that I really kind of cavilled at was being a white non-binary person playing a white woman in a black woman's body. And that was sort of made me go, in a home game that might be more okay, but out on a live stream that has all sorts of just not tasty things.
Let's just lay those eggshells down in front of you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And-
where it's like, especially heading into Africa, where the racism subplot was so dominant.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we did a good job. I mean, we played with size, you know, the whole shtick of you getting stuck in the window. Like there were other things that you can play off of that weren't necessarily like, you know.
And I
and
just want to be clear again that like that was 100% me on the flip of a dime coming up with that idea.
Yeah.
It was not, you know, and Tiana took the poor hand that I gave her and did great things with it. But you know, as when she and I had a conversation, you know, the first thing was, all right, how are we gonna transition out of this? You know, how are we gonna tell the story in an interesting way that just takes us to where you want to be? And that was, you know, that's how you should handle these situations with players and GMs is if you're a GM and a player comes to you and says, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, you say, all right, how are we going to get out of this? You know, let's come up with how we're going to do this. And you lay it out pretty clearly, saying, okay, here's where we're going to get to. And I promise we're going to get there. Because otherwise, you know, you're not listening to the player, and the player is like, what's going on here? I'm very I've told you I'm uncomfortable with this. Why do we keep doing this? You know, that sort of thing.
Well, and that's something that I really appreciate about you as a GM, Ezra, is that, you know, you're very quick to be like, okay, this didn't work. How do we pivot?
Yeah.
I have yet to see you get defensive about choices that are made, and I know some GMs who get really defensive.
She's talking about
where
Bo.
It's like, no, I made. I am not. Do not do that. There's already chaos in the ranks and the chaos agents. We don't need to do that.
No, you know, look, we're when you're the GM, you're telling a story with a number of other people, and you know, they have just as much tell and pull in the story as you do. And you know, your job is to create a somewhat stable and understandable framework that, you know, if I do this, I can expect X to happen probably, you know, and deviate now and then. But if you're going to deviate way from the norm, that's a conversation with the player. And if it's not a conversation with the player and the player says, whoa, I'm not okay with that, it's a course correction, you know, always 100%. That has to happen. The Baroness did ask a question. She asked me what my favorite part of the scenario was. And actually Dead Boy is probably right. The scene with Flint and the Baroness, where Flint put his finger in the Baroness.
You mean Silvano.
Silvano, right. Where Silvano put his finger in the Baroness's mouth. That was pretty fantastic.
Gross.
I really enjoyed.
The Duchess put her finger in his mouth and like
No.
of it. That was
That was awesome.
that was awesome and disgusting.
So
Oh, the Duchess, not the Baroness.
Duchess, not the Baroness, and she's here and she can hear you.
Oh,
How many times have I done that?
the Baroness was before the show. That's when the inspiration came. No.
But my favorite part of the actual module as written is probably the Shipley scenario with Miles and the mother and with
Call an ambulance.
Thomas stabbing himself in the leg with the sewing needle. Oh man, that was.
Oh my god, that was.
Oh my god.
I could listen to a loop of Emma going, "Call an ambulance."
Me too.
I could listen to that on a loop for I don't know how long.
Oh
I
my god.
have legitimately thought about putting that as a ringtone.
Oh.
Oh.
No, I love this where it says here, Ezra won't be joining us in the upcoming season.
I just pasted that into our chat.
Yeah.
Make sure to
I had to call that out. I had to call it out.
I
Good.
love reincorporation always works. That's an important lesson.
I'm going to admit a few things. I cheat. I enjoy cheating. And so when you said the favorite part of your scenario, I do have to say that I loved being the Sword of Akmala, and thank you, Slidey Top. And
yeah. I mean,
and
so
Joan
how many
Slidey
props
for making this.
How many props did he made? The capstone,
Mhm.
he made the sword, he made
and the
Jones,
staves, right? He made the
Jones'
staves as well.
Did we have a
the
box?
crowbar? Is that a real crowbar?
No, this one I got from someplace.
Like Home Depot.
He also made other elder signs, didn't he? That were like
He
hand
made.
sized?
I think he made an elder sign.
Oh, I have a little tiny rock one.
Oh, nice.
Yes, this one's a
No,
real rock.
Those are the sad ones that Ezra made.
Yeah, this one's a real rock too. It's not foam. It's like painted and everything.
So we'll actually stop otherworldly beings.
When there was not cut and paste involved, Slidey.
I couldn't find the other rock. I must have put it in my office or something because he had that other one that was the big one, but I couldn't.
But my question is, I actually, towards the end of the scenario, flipped through the book, and I really struggled to find the Sword of Akmala. So what is this? Where did it come from? Like,
the Sword of Akmala is actually a person in the game. He is that old gentleman that you meet at the thing. He is called the Sword of Akmala. There is and there is no sword. But I just liked the idea of, because you it was this burden that he had to bear that you took on, and as soon as you took it on, they all disappeared, and then things went to hell.
As they do around us.
As they do, yes.
Yeah. But no, there was no magic sword. And then when one of the early points when Joan and Silvano we're going to Stonehenge to make this even more powerful, and I was like, so there's like nothing in the rules about like turbo elder signs, but I was just like, that's fantastic, that has to work, and that was just too good. And so similarly with the sword, and sort of having this idea of places of power and ley lines and stuff like that, we had to keep that going. That was too good to do. But the Sword of Akmala is that guy whose name I don't remember.
because I was looking up stats for the actual sword. I was like, this sword has got to have stats. I'm like, it's got to do supernatural stuff. It doesn't even exist.
Remember, the thing is that you had the sword before that, so like that was a perfect chance for Ezra to do symmetry there.
By the way, don't look at any of the stats because I don't look at them. I have no idea what stats.
Do you also have the broken capstone there too?
It's somewhere in here.
Oh, okay, because there's the full one and then there was the half one. Yeah, before we put it back together.
Slithy Toad makes a great point. The initial prop that was made for the Great Dane Society was the headdress of eyes the Baroness made, which hopefully has shown up at Dead Boy's house by now. I'm hoping, given the U.S. mail. But the headdress of eyes was the initial one. By the way, the headdress of eyes is in the book, and it is actually an intelligent item in the book. And so that was like one thing that I actually did that was true to the book. We have like many different headdress of eyes.
This is the one that when I wore it, this is because I didn't have one here. I made one, so that's what Jones would look like.
Nice. So yeah, the Headdress of Eyes was actually fairly on the nose from what's in the module. In terms
Did
of,
it fight with me like it was like my annoying sibling?
Well, so in the book, the Headdress of Eyes just tells you to do things, and then if you don't do it, it tries to take you over. And like the longer you wear it, the harder it gets to be against it. But yes, it does mention that it treats you like a child, that sort of thing. Like I think there's
You're just a natural to play that.
I do love the Headdress of Eyes.
Yes.
One thing that I didn't, there are 2 books to this, and like the first is Peru, New York, and London and Egypt, and then the second one is Australia, China, Great Dragon Island. But the problem, and then like all the appendices, and so to find all the stuff, you have to like go through all of these appendices, or I guess you could use an index, sure.
Yeah, I mean, how big is the book? Isn't it like 600 or some pages in totality?
It's 650 pages of Masks of Nyarlothotep. Let's see here. Here we go. Headdress of Eyes. Gold headdress, hundreds of small eyes. Repository of magic points. When first activated, anyone not in the service of Nyarlathotep begins to hear a voice in their head. The voice appeals to the wearer's dark side, encouraging them to follow a path of selfishness, self-preservation, and adoration of the Black Pharaoh. And so when you first put it on, like that was when it was like, let's start fires, let's get out of here. You have to save yourself in the hospital. And so, I started out, yeah, the ether thing. And then I just had to like rag on D&D with the whole attuning thing. That was my,
And then it just sort of spiraled from there, where you actually made it a cursed item, like something like the Ring of Winter or a cursed sword or some shit
Something
like that.
Yep.
You have become the thing you swore to destroy.
Yeah. Well, I always did love intelligent items. They're a weakness of mine. And
I'm just giving you crap for fun because I love it. I think it turned out really well.
It was good. It was fun.
So what about you guys? What are your favorite like scenes or parts of the game from all that we did?
Ooh, I like the part, not when it happened. I like later when I, as Silvano, had realized that I had just after I had shot the crazy lady who was spewing lava from her.
Yeah. Okay.
Like Silvano went and just started picking off cultists off the other boat to try to desperately get them off, but he was in such a mode that he didn't realize that he was doing it. And it wasn't until later, like there was a moment, I forget the scene, but he was just like, oh, I killed a whole bunch of people. I killed all those, like it didn't even, and that was a part of his internal breaking down, because his self-image of himself was so he was like, well, I did this one thing that was horrible, but like I had to. And then it was like, and then I killed a bunch of other people. Oh no.
Nom 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 deep ones.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
the eating the deep one, that was pretty awesome.
And that fed into a lot of his breakdown with his personal self-images. When he would break, he would just do these violent things, and that they were just super intuitive and primal to him. And he was just, yeah.
That was the just taking a huge bite out of the deep one was a pretty outstanding scene.
People are writing some of their favorites in the chat too.
Oh, that's a good one. The Flint and that pilot's head. Just
the pilot. Yeah, I loved how committed Flint was to saving that guy's head.
He's like paddling with one arm above, like, I got you, buddy. I got you.
That was pretty awesome. Yeah. To this day, by the way, Tom, and I mean Tom, not Donald. Tom does not understand why I was so incredulous about the shooting of the guy in Egypt. The like going back and shooting the guy who was like crawling away.
Oh,
yeah. Like, you just murdered that guy. He's like, whoa, but it was the right thing. And I'm like, but the people that would start a white guy just murdered a guy in the streets. And I still get kvetching about that.
Well, and that was something that prompted Alexandria talking to Emma about it's getting a bit much.
I'm torn because like the military side of me is actually very different. Like that's one of those things where there have been cases where the military is like, we're going to make an example of what happens when someone comes and kills one of our own. And then the people in the area are like, oh, we're not doing that ever again. So
But you could also be brought up on murder charges too.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
it just
Uniform
depends
Code
on
of
which way
Justice.
the wind blows today, you know?
Yeah, and especially in an environment like Cairo, especially at the time with all of the garbage that we had created.
Right.
A white guy, you know, killing someone who was crawling away begging for mercy is not a good look.
No.
And then the train, like to me, the scene that surprised me the most was the train scene in Kenya.
Which one?
Yeah, which one?
Which part of it? It's
the indiscriminate murder. You know, that was to me was.
I'm kind of glad Emma didn't know about that.
That was when and I mean, let's be clear.
We're murder hobos.
Players doing aberrant things is par for the course. What I think is interesting and what I think is you know, something that I kind of would like to probe at if it starts to happen is why players are starting to take the easy way out.
Sure.
You know, there's one of the things that I love about Call of Cthulhu is that there are very real repercussions if you decide to take the easy way out. You know, if you say, well, the bad guys do it, so we can do it. You know, there's sanity costs.
Yeah.
There's an actual legal system and a structure. And that, you know, kill all the people you want, but be prepared to have a rationale for it.
There's some repercussions.
You know, and be prepared to have your, you know, be prepared to, you know, have a cost to your humanity.
Yeah, with the train scene, that was as one of my favorite YouTubers likes to say, a cock-up cascade, where Alexandria saw someone casting a spell and tried to make it stop, not realizing that she couldn't actually do the thing without a particular material component, i.e. blood. She didn't realize that because she doesn't fuck with magic. She hates the stuff. So she tried to make it stop, and then it just kept getting worse, up to the point where it was like, fuck it, this is going to happen anyway. I'm going to go and kill this woman in front of everyone because I don't care anymore. But it was a cock-up cascade that started with one really bad decision. Alexandria kicked herself a lot for that part. Where she spent a lot of time in Emma's wardrobe on the way into the city going, no, I could have just not responded.
Yeah.
That would have been fine, but also she's 27 and stupid.
Gorilla module. Sorry, I'm just responding to someone.
Oh no, the gorilla. So
they are, because I've heard about in your other games. Is that just something you do? You just turn people into gorillas?
I was so taken with that idea that I used it in my home game too.
Nice.
It's actually something I stole from Marvel Comics.
That's not in the actual module?
No. So
I thought that was I'm
wow,
sorry.
that's epic.
There's a superhero in Marvel Comics, called Gorilla Man. And Gorilla Man is he was like a Victorian hunter who killed a gorilla in this temple of the gorilla, and he became the Gorilla Man.
I didn't know that.
And the idea is that you're immortal. Not, you know, only another person can kill you, and if they kill you, they become a gorilla. And so his main superpower, he's a gorilla, so he's strong and all this stuff. But his main superpower is like he can fall a really long way, and you know he can slowly thread himself back together and all this stuff. And he's like, nope, not going to kill me. And I really liked that idea of that image. And you know, it was suitably pulp. As we were starting to play more pulp, I sort of liked that idea. In our home game, Chad, who all the players know, but he's been a gorilla for a while now, and that actually led to an on the boat scenario that I loved, where he found a vampire who would sneak down. There was a hold where all the animals were, and so he's just sitting in there bored. And like they keep smuggling him the newspaper, and he's like sitting in this cage reading the newspaper, and they bring him down food and stuff. But at night, this vampire would come down and eat the blood of, drink the blood of the animals. And so then they're like, do we deal with this? and they just all sort of backed away. They were all fine with it, you know.
Julie, you have a scene to share.
Yeah, what's your favorite scene?
Thanks, Nick. I was kind
Good
of
job, Nick.
No, I think it wasn't a single scene, but it was the time when we got to go to the place where the alternative, I don't know, it wasn't quite an alternative universe, but the kind of the pocket universe where Joan had her own museum.
Oh, the Emma universe.
And
Yeah,
where
I like how, you know, the Emma-verse is now Joan World.
Yes. Yes. Well, she had her own museum and there was all the books that she could read. And somebody in the chat was saying, how come nobody likes to read books? I'm like, Joan read all the books. She read the books.
She did.
And
Alexandria stayed away from those because
exactly. It's like, and everybody kept trying to take those books away from me. What? But that was one of my favorites. That whole time in that area and being able to deal with all that. That was one of my favorites. And of course, you know, saving the world and getting my brain back. Come on, being able to reverse time and the brain flies back.
Cool.
That was epic.
That was like, yes. But no, before that, you know, before the, you know, saving the world thing, I really, really liked Emma World. I really liked having that.
Was that thing as well? Yeah. Was the Space Mead, was that real? Because like, okay, because I really like Emma thought for sure Julius Caesar did it this way. So this is the way we have to do it.
Yes.
I totally,
yes.
I really was trying to figure out how to bring a 1,000 soldier sorcerer, you know, a sorcerer legion into play at the end. You know, I was like, can I get somehow get Augustus to show up and lead the?
Oh wow, yeah.
With enough time magic, you can.
Yeah, that's true.
And not only
I'm
that,
just
too,
gonna,
his
you know,
head was
take
in a
all my
jar.
stomach bile and throw it over on everybody. It'll be great.
You did some really cool stuff in the Space Meet. Like the bizarre solutions and stuff you came up with. Just, that was really cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Quietly making Space Mead disappear because no.
One of the challenges there was, and it was not the first time I ran into this challenge, was making stuff up and then forgetting it as I made it up. And so I was like, the whole thing with, like, if you go back and watch the time dilation part, it's not great. Like, it is not terribly consistent.
It's magic. It's not supposed
magic.
to
Yeah,
be coherent. It almost should not be coherent. You should go back, like, there's holes in this. It's like, yeah, that's magic.
But it made sense. It made sense in the context of where we were and what we were doing.
Yes,
like,
yes.
I didn't have any trouble following it as a player.
Ooh. Someone was asking, could the ancient knife bringing back Rome, was that your attempt to bring?
Oh yeah. No, that was a sad attempt of like, oh God, they went to Rome. That's not in any of the books. Lie. What am I gonna do?
No, okay. So Ezra gives us crap all the time for how long we took getting through things, and I'm over here like 3 weeks in Rome says it wasn't entirely our fault.
Yeah, like it was tough because we had to talk about that, and I remember it was after the blimp, and I'm like, it takes too long. Like we shouldn't be dragging on this stuff, and it's like, but you did have to blow up a blimp. Like I can't fault you for that one. Like that had to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
And I really, you know, I wanted to. I love.
Go ahead.
No, I love the terracotta warrior is like my Hitchcock cameo. I always want the terracotta warrior in there.
I said in our chat that I don't really have a favorite anything, but I will say that the Groundhog Day thing was one of my favorite sequences, I guess, within the game. Partially because we had to keep looking at. It was Flint at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where?
On the blimp.
On the blimp.
On the blimp.
No, it was Hollister at that point.
Was it Hollister? Okay, I can't remember which of your characers is where.
We had been teleported back after Shanghai, and Flint had gone to the jet.
Okay.
It looks so similar.
Because I mean, the nice thing, of course, about Dawn of Alexandria having a relationship is I didn't have to explain anything. It was, trust me, I know what I'm doing. And he would say, okay, I trust you. Talking Hollister around was the harder part, and I loved it.
Well, Hollister was already, because the stuff you guys were doing, his first impression of everyone was like, was basically like, this is this crackpot. Jeez. Anyhow, well, I don't know the word, but like this skilled team that's handling all this stuff is like they must be reading through the things like, well, there must be reasons for this, and they've somehow made it through. So there's something I'm not seeing, and then it's just like these people are. She's getting a bicycle and hand grenades.
You were looking for reason where there wasn't any. Yes.
that
You
was
were
my
looking for
favorite.
reason in chaos.
And so on the blip, he's just kind of like sitting back, like I'm just taking this in. I'm just like I don't even know what to say anymore.
I did enjoy the arc of Hollister going from like, I'm going to let these professionals handle this in a professional manner
To
to
be like, no.
what the hell?
Yeah,
Do any of you know what you're doing?
Probably the
Oh,
only
God.
professional. The only professional was Alexandria, and she's only professional when it comes to killing people. So
I don't know. Some people, I got a DM from somebody saying, okay, what's the deal with Joan and Hollister?
oh, I ship them hard though.
Wait, no, I thought Joan was with what's his name? Who was the other scientist? Oh God, why can't I remember my characters' names?
I don't know,
The
man.
Australian.
Yeah, I don't know. Aldrich?
Oh, the Aussie guy.
Yeah, what was his name?
The guy that I
yeah.
killed?
Yeah, the guy you killed.
Yeah.
Five.
What was
Clive.
his name?
That's like
Clive.
live.
Yeah,
Clive.
Henry Clive.
Clive.
I said it like 4 times. No one
Yes.
listens to me.
Clive.
That was brutal. I did not want to do that.
You were messaging me actually at one point where it was like at some point Hollister is going to talk to Alexandria about quietly removing this person.
Yeah. And then the scene comes up and he's like, well, I'm going to go to the pyramid. And I'm like, crap. I know, like I have to do something. I can't just let him screw this
Yeah,
all
no,
up.
and that took a while for Joan to to forgive
Accept.
Hollister about, but we had those intense
Oh.
sessions.
And afterwards too, I remember someone in the chat was mentioned like fearing that Hollister was going to kill one of the party members. And I'm like that's horrible, but that's delightful. Like
I was prepared.
great.
No,
I was
I
prepared.
was totally ready for Emma and Hollister to team up and be like, Alexandria in Nitocris's body is too much of a liability. She needs to be removed. Much in the same way that Alexandria was watching Joan and going, when she becomes too much of a liability, she just won't wake
gone.
up one morning.
Well,
Was
Hollister
Emma
had a
ever too
little
much
bit
of a
Oh, go ahead.
No,
was Emma ever too much of a liability where you guys are like, nope, she's gotta
No.
go?
not
Dude.
really, because like she would throw chaos into the middle of things, but it was chaos that made things happen.
And that's why Joan and Emma kind of like went, this is weird.
Yeah, I never felt like Emma was actually a liability, or at least Alexandria never thought of her that way.
Well, you were her friend. You were her like
Yeah.
bestie.
Yes. Do you think?
Hollister wouldn't stay at the same
No.
hotel as Emma.
I know.
Do you think for a single second that has ever stopped Alexandria?
My
She
character
leaves
is a
has killed
liability
friends
to
before.
herself.
What?
I mean, it's an interesting tack because there was definitely there were moments where I heard it from Joan and I heard it from Donald where they're like Emma, and there was this whole like Alexander was like, Emma, what do you think? What should we do? That sort of, and there was I really liked that tension, and that's actually the reason why I decided totally on a flyer to make Joan a constant as well.
I wondered about that. Was that decided on
That's
the
a
blimp?
good question. That's a good question. Yeah.
It sort of just came. It actually, I started to think of it when Julie and I had a conversation off camera about some of her frustrations with how the game was going and that sort of thing, and how she could how I could better mesh her into the group and that sort of thing. And I started to think about it then, but then it just sort of popped in at the moment came, and I was like, oh yeah, let's do a reveal. This will be, and that part of it was, because I think GMing is kind of like teaching in the way that if you don't blind yourself, you will play favorites subconsciously. And I could watch Nick and Emma read the phone book, and that would be a fun game for me. That just, they know exactly what I want and they give it to me, and so I was
Drugs,
when
dogs, car chases, explosives.
so when Julie first brought that to my attention, I started to think about it that way of, I'd go back and I'd look and I'd see that subconsciously I was kind of like, I was pushing this, like monkey want happy pill, give me what I want, and that wasn't necessarily serving the story. And so I tried to correct from that somewhat with varying degrees of success. But that was when I decided that was going to happen, which hopefully no one is trying to find any sort of consistency with the whole constant thing, because like when I first made it up, I was like, I don't even really know what this means, but sure, and then like about 5 sessions after I did that, I was like, what if one of them dies? Do I have to start over again?
Well, I think the idea with the constant is just, from what I've gathered from what you've said, is that one exists in every universe. They can still die because they're still human, but there's still one in every universe, as opposed to someone like Madame Jezebel, Lady Jezebel, who only exists in maybe 2 or 3 universes.
Yeah, and along with that, I did try and have some stuff where the Pharaoh was very specific, like, you people are in the game, and so I can't have a constant in the game die, so that was my sad little out. I really like the question. Who asked it? Let's see here.
There was one
Elder Brat asked,
Yeah.
everybody's favorite creature in the game.
Yes.
Parrot shark. Fuck the parrot shark, but also they were great.
I'm bumping this one in our chat. Don't forget to this is a one from a while ago.
Okay. Thank you for bumming that. Yeah, parrot sharks. Parrot sharks took on a life of their own. Speaking of things that don't have stats, I'm not even really sure what they are.
Parrot shark.
Creatures.
I really liked the image of the Karasiri. I love that, and that it's actually in the book that they have that telescoping kind of thing.
Flesh tank.
Yeah,
Everyone's favorite
definitely.
creature was this creepy flesh tank.
I like the dolls. I liked the dolls, the creatures that we were able to come up and they would eat. I was like,
Only because you got to control them and eat Emma.
Blow my way out of it. Very much like Dune.
Yes, that was part of the reason why I liked them. I was thinking of the big sandworms and things, so it was fun.
What about Lion Paws guy? Remember that?
He was
guy though.
man. Scene.
Emma Bunnies.
About favorite scenes.
Emma Bunnies.
Emma Bunnies.
I can't handle them. They were not my favorites.
They were
Spiders.
They just slit their own throats on your.
I still really want to write like a twisted children's story, like Go the Fuck to Sleep, along the lines of the bunnies named Emma who throw themselves onto knives.
That would be awesome.
Throwing yourself on knives turned into a running theme in the game. It happened in Rome. It happened in the finale. There was a lot of I don't know what that says about it.
It's like the perfect zombie horror thing where you're seeing something unfold. You're like, can I do anything about this?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that first scene in the Juju house with the the kid. What was it? When Emma was like bribing the kid. When we first found out that Emma should not be around children.
Yes. Oh gosh, what else? People are throwing out a whole bunch of them. Oh, I forgot about the spiders.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah, the spider. I really
that was
liked
traumatizing when the spiders came back to be a portal. Like at first, I was like, "Oh
no.
Yeah,
these are the spiders, aren't they?"
Yeah, in one of, if I may criticize the module as written, they create a couple of really cool creatures like the Karasiri, and then they don't show up again. And I'm like, if you're going to create cool stuff like that, hammer it, bring it back, have their, I wanted the cults to have some consistency and have some stuff that they sort of, all knew how to do, that sort of thing.
Yeah. We still have that RP question to deal with, right?
Yeah,
we've got questions for days.
That's a tough question, just because
What was it? What was
if
the
some
question?
people It's
Nick,
it's
ask
a
the
group of
question
players who, what is it? Got a group of
So
players
when you-
who RP isn't their thing. Should I teach them or let them? And I'm kind of like, give them opportunities, but like I remember we were playing a game at Jill's, and one of the players was, we tend to just talk amongst ourselves, like that's kind of a role play thing, and the game doesn't go forward until we've resolved our internal stuff. Another player was like, this is killing me, I can't play with you guys anymore, we have to keep moving. And it's like, fair enough, like go do you.
Yeah.
So
The right answer there is
pressure.
the right answer there is make sure that everybody at the table, GM and players, wants to play the same kind of game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask your players, if they want to play a dungeon crawl and you want to run a political thriller, nobody's going to be happy.
Right.
Everybody's going to be frustrated.
Yeah. There's
And
a difference.
so,
Yeah. There's a difference between town and dungeon too.
yeah, ask your players what kind of game they want. And then if that's not the game you want to run, don't run it. And if they don't want to play the game that you want to run, that's find out where that medium is, or get somebody else to run or somebody else to play.
Because I mean, I've gotten very fortunate. I am someone who loves digging into RP, especially stuff that is like emotionally heavy, or I like that sort of thing. And I've gotten very fortunate with all of my groups that I have found groups that are very much into RP. I don't think I could do anything that's just pure combat and pure, railroad.
D&D. You play D&D.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
You play D&D.
Yeah.
I
I don't know.
do.
And do you know how
do
do you know how often my D&D games have brought me to the point of being like, I need to go and sit and have a moment because this affected me so emotionally. Like I play with Spike as a GM where he played an NPC who was literally curled up against the bookshelves sobbing, and I came over and sat next to him as my character sitting next to the NPC, interacting with this moment that was so deep and heavy that I had afterwards I just sat there and went, I need to breathe because this was something.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean, yes,
both.
I play D&D, but I play D&D. I mean, I prefer more rules light a little bit because I like the RP a hell of a lot more than I like the combat.
No, I've played both. I've played both because there's some times where you just go, I just want to roll and I want to hit that freaking kobold and not let him hit me with my and there's times where you can do that. And I've played with a bunch of dudes who just like want to go, let's roll dice. And I'm like, okay, let's do that. But I try to ingest a little bit in, I will have a character and I will do the voice, or I'll do something, I'll do something to get that feeling for me, but I don't have to play with if they don't want to do it, oh well.
I mean, Lucifer, that's a tough spot. So he's also saying that, he asked them and they're like, oh, whatever you want to do is fine. At a certain point, if you don't feel like you're getting what you want from it, then, you're the variable that's going to change there, apparently. And so if you're okay giving them what, just sort of going through the motions of what you think they want, fine. But I really think there's a conversation to be had around that table that needs to go deeper than, sure, whatever you want.
Or,
Well, I mean, if they're coming back, though,
yeah,
I mean,
that's a good sign, actually. Yeah.
Like, hey,
if they keep showing up, you're doing something right.
I mean, that's a good sign, but also, sometimes people just don't talk about things because we're socialized to not talk about problems until they explode.
Yeah,
are we?
It's a fair point.
Yes, we are.
We're great
We
at
really are. Okay, maybe I'm speaking as someone who is socialized female, but we don't talk about shit till it just goes boom.
Oh no, I don't wait that long.
I try not to, but it's something that I was very much socialized into as someone who's a AFAB. So
I'm too pragmatic to adhere to that. It's like after I stick my hand in the fire like 3 times and then I realize it's hot and I have to change course.
I'm a serial job quitter, although not now. I'm very happy in my current job, but and it's that same reason. Like I look around and I'm like, well, I'm the only thing that's going to change here. So, it's a tough, I mean, if you're having fun and they're having fun, then, some things are going right. If you're not having fun, one thing marriage has taught me, and it hasn't taught me much, I assure you, because I am a stupid
okay.
man.
I was like, whoa.
But one thing marriage has taught me is communicate, don't assume. Because it's really easy to assume what someone else is thinking, and they are not. We think we can read people, but in real life, there's no psychology stat. There's no like, I think you're lying to me. I rolled 37. And so, and if somebody says things are doing okay, all you can do is take them at their word, and as long as you're having fun, and if you're not having fun, that's the conversation you have. Say, hey, I'm not enjoying this. Here's what I'd like to maybe get from this game. How can we do that and still give you what you want?
Mm-hmm.
There was another question here that said, question for you guys. What other RPGs do you like or play besides Cthulhu or D&D?
I think I've said this before.
It's paranoia.
Don't think I terribly care about the system. It's there's GMs that I want to play with as opposed to systems, and a good GM will just make it good.
I have another system that I've played that I really liked is Numenera.
I haven't played that one, but I've heard good things.
It's not that the system is like, oh my God, the system, but I like the idea of being able to play with a lot of different kinds of worlds and things like that. And so it was fun.
Cipher system?
Is that a cipher system?
I think that's the cipher system game.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, I got a conclusion.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows more than me.
The nice thing
on that. Thomas
the
GM
really
that
neat thing about Thomas ran it at a con for the company there. I think the really neat thing about that game is that the GM doesn't roll any dice. The GM just gives the players rolls and they make them all. And
isn't it pretty dice easy from what I got?
Yeah, it's very much a slightly crunchy story game.
Yeah.
I actually quite like that system.
Monty Cook, that's who Thomas, because they gave him a t-shirt that was a medium. So guess who has a Monty Cook t-shirt? This girl.
Speaking though of dice light systems, I really like Monster of the Week. I'm playing that on another podcast, Roll for Weird, and it's great. Like we look at it and go, okay, in this situation, my character is a spell slinger, for example. And so Misty is over here like, okay, I want to put a shield up or try to banish this thing. And I roll 2d6s and I add my weird stat. And that's all there is to it. It is so very rules light and incredibly dice light. And the GM never rolls dice. And
powered by the apocalypse, right? That's powered by the apocalypse.
I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure.
Your character sheet is a folio and you click off things on it and you're like an archetype.
So here's Misty's spell.
Yeah, that's powered by the apocalypse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's based on the Apocalypse World system, which I love. And there's a bunch of different games for it. My wife is currently playing in a superhero game in that thing. They have a system called Masks, and it's got it's super rules light. It's just a couple D6 for most things, and it does some really neat things in the rules, depending on what system you're playing, of codifying relationships. Like in the original Apocalypse World, relationship is actually a stat that you have that is relative to all the other players. It's called RX. And so like I have an RX with Emma's character, with Emma and that sort of thing. And that will impact if I'm doing something with her or to her, that sort of thing.
RX.
It's a really cool system. I
mean, and it codifies that a little bit, because like when we first started with Roll for Weird, we were not planning to make it a podcast, but here we are. We started off going, who are these people and who are they to me? So, this is my great grandfather. We just reconnected because he's a vampire and he's come back into my life. Actually happens on Roll for Weird. It's great. I love it.
I like the Apocalypse. We have a question from user Og4R4NT228. He asks, do you want to become famous?
No.
Sorry, no. I just deleted him.
Yeah, I know. That was epic because they put all those interesting characters in there.
Gosh, as a GM, like I want systems that get the rules out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
and that players can understand easily. Because I went to a con back when we could go to cons, and I sat down at a table to play my buddy Gil, who's one of the best GMs out there, just amazing GM. He was running a one roll engine Game of Thrones game. And I was like, super cool. I want to play this. The rules explanation was more than an hour.
Oh, wow.
And that I don't like.
That is too crunchy.
Yeah, well, we're trying that out right now, and we actually just kind of jumped in there in a home game, and it just ran through combat and like, here's what it's like. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's certainly one way that you could do it. That's certainly one way that you could do it.
But it didn't take that long, is what I'm saying. I'm surprised, and I've actually done one roll engine a lot in the past and had.
Well, con games are a different animal, and they're explaining rules at a con is very different than explaining rules in a campaign game, where you have you have the benefit to be able to like introduce rules episodically or kind of as they come up, as opposed to at a con where it's like, you want to do that, I have to tell you how to do that right now. The neat thing about the one roll engine is that it's super lethal. Man, it's dangerous. But I run Cthulhu or BRP, as Chaosium once tried to call it, because it just makes sense. Like if I tell you you have a 40% chance to do something, like you can understand that is easy to conceptualize. It's almost as likely I'll do that as it is I won't, and that really helps, especially players who are new to games and that sort of thing kind of come into it. The more that I can get the rules out of the way and let us tell the story. I mean, you guys saw it. I don't roll a lot of dice. I don't like to, I don't like to let the dice get in the way of the story either. Die Schwarze Auge. Oof. Firehawk Shadowchild brings up this it's a German RPG system called the Dark Eye, Die Schwarze Auge. And it's like,
I was like, what are you doing over here in German?
I know.
It's this punishingly complex, like, your encumbrance is algebra, and it matters. And it's just, I'm not a fan.
That's not my thing. Like,
me neither.
Like the world and the environment that I can understand, which is why I'm not so much a fan of D&D. And I like Carbon because I live and work in an environment kind of like Carbon 2185, where it's like, I'm going to imagine a little bit, but I mean, it's not, when Warren would constantly look at me like, why the F are you breaking the game? And I'm like, technically I'm not breaking the game. These are things we kind of do at work.
Technically, I'm not breaking the game. The Emma story.
Okay.
Is that going to be the name of our next?
Yeah, that's the name.
There it
is.
is.
Call the character creation. Technically, I'm not breaking the game.
Yes,
very fitting.
I'd be really interested in playing, and I have the book. I haven't gotten through it yet. I'm on like page 11 because I fall asleep when I'm reading manuals. Is Tales from the Loop.
So, yeah.
I've heard about that.
Has anybody seen Dark on Netflix or something like that? It's like you're a bunch of 80s kids, except you're in a little bit of like a steampunky type 80s where, you know what I mean? There's robots and things that you actually interact with. And so those are the worlds that I can get into. I'm like, it's not hard. It's not a far stretch to be somebody in the 20s or a kid in the 80s or, there's another game too that I'm interested in playing called Alice is Missing, where you're a teenager and you text each other and try and figure out what happened to Alice. So these are all games that have real life environments and you act within the environment. And so like, if you tell me to roll a dice, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care about rolling the dice. Just tell me what to roll and it's fine. But it's about the environment that we can play in.
Yeah.
Amy's 2 more cons away from becoming a LARPer.
Only if LARPing means I'm in my pajamas.
Hey, if you're texting other people, maybe that's just.
I'm not sure you want to go to those LARPs. Those are different. Dead Boy wants to see. He's like, but Emma and D&D was amazing.
It was really a lot of fun.
You. I'm so old, and I've known Amy so long that I remember non-Emma D&D characters.
Yeah, her name was Marina.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was that your
And then-
very first D&D character?
Yep, I was a
Wow.
fighter. So I was your classic fighter because it was my first D&D game ever.
Wow.
To learn the ropes. And then a year and a half into it, I became Jesus, man. I was some sort of cleric ranger who rode a flying dog.
The halfling outrider.
Yes.
You were a halfling outrider. You
Mhm.
rode your dog.
Wow.
Into combat.
And the less we say about Groove Master beats.
Yeah, no shit.
Who? What?
I want to know now that I heard that.
Beat Master Groove.
Nick's initial character in our game, in this D&D game, was a cat who had a human as a familiar.
Or, no, it was the cat was the familiar, but the human was pretty dumb, and the cat was
the cat was like running everything.
Oh, I love it.
And
That's
it was
awesome.
But
I don't
then Jill
remember-
killed the human as a warning shot to the party to not go some.
yeah. It
Well,
was-
I was like, okay, I'll dial it back. Fair enough. Okay, I can read between the lines here.
Meowsterful.
Meowsterful. That was
damn it.
awesome.
oh,
Dude.
for Pete's sakes.
That's an interesting question that I
Dead
have.
Boy will not be
for-
joining us in season 2.
That's an interesting question that I have for you guys. What was your first role-playing character?
Rogue.
Oh, jeez, I can't
Rogue.
remember.
I
So
played a lot of rogues.
I was 15. It was a different time.
Back when rocks were soft. Go on.
First edition D&D. I played a fighter that didn't wear armor and only cared about his hair. And so I would every town we went into, I asked if there was a hair salon. That was my main thing. And because I was a 15-year-old boy, I also wanted to find brothels, even though none of us, we only sort of knew what brothels did. But that's where naked ladies are. So I just wanted to go there. It was,
Okay.
I wore boots of speed, and the GM in one of the first, actually, I hadn't ever thought about this, about how much the GM, Chris Kent, like he did something that made me like that I would do. He gave me a sword that was an ardent feminist. And so I had this intelligent sword that was just constantly disgusted by me. And I would, and like,
So something you would do.
yeah. And I was like, at the time it just annoyed me, but as I think back on it, lessons for life. So somebody, Tamago Tora asked about the best worst TPKs that any of the players have been involved in. Does destroying all the universe count? I don't know. Is that...
No.
No, not at all.
I usually kill my characters off to the side.
Yeah.
Like they've like you were describing how he ran off on the alien world and got himself killed, and like I was kind of like, I hope he doesn't die because I really like this character, but it's like he's not gonna make it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, for me, even not playing games on a stream, like death needs to have a narrative reason to me, because one of the reasons that I don't play D&D is that death is meaningless. Death in D&D is, well, we got to find some diamond dust. It just has no meaning whatsoever. But when you're playing a game where death means something, even though I went repeatedly through this game to show that it didn't mean anything, it has to have a narrative reason. It can't just be like, and then somebody got shot and that was the end of it. And so, you do stuff like, Alexandria loses her voice, or, you do sort of things that are traumatic that serve a similar purpose to death. But like somebody's death needs to serve the story.
You say that, but I can't help but remember your Dwarven Bard that you had that game, and like you had such a death wish, and like my paladin was just like
tried to keep me alive,
keep you alive, and like there were times where it's like you were just going down, and he would like he had gone through the ringer for you, and he'd be standing above you with lay hands, just his own blood pouring down on you, like here we are again, like.
That was that was a bard whose instrument of choice was power ballads, and who cooked with, I think, methamphetamine as a seasoning.
We talked about, what is it? Coffee for Dwarves was cocaine. And he cooked up my paladin at one point.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, geez.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't like TPKs is a unless you're doing something like a mitten or something like that, where you're expecting people to die. And actually, not to bite the hand that feeds me, but I think one of the structural problems with the mitten is that it's sort of like, okay, keep fighting until you die, and now there's two of you left, and the three people are sitting there. I think we're starting. The stuff Thomas is starting to do, I think, is going to change that and make it more interesting. But unless you're doing something like a mitten, death is like the least interesting thing that can happen. It's like I said back in the beginning, death is absolution. Death is, what are the real repercussions?
Yeah, I think I've only been involved in a TPK once, and I put heavy quotation marks around it because we didn't actually die. It was in Dragon of Icefire Peak. Where we were all knocked unconscious and dragged away, and
one person.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah,
there's actually a whole section in the Cthulhu rulebook that talks about there's. I don't really do this that much, partly because player agency stuff, but there's a whole bunch of Cthulhu stuff that is what happens if the party gets captured. And I've played games where we have to do like the escape from the cultist scene and that sort of thing and get our stuff back and all that.
Right.
What somebody else asked a question there that it was, let's see here. Well, it belongs
that
to
was
the
agonizing though. What James put us through there. I was like,
it was
the one that I was freaking out.
It was difficult. It was definitely one of the more difficult experiences that I've had in a D&D game. And yeah, that's the closest to a TPK that I've ever seen.
We all lost, and we were all at the mercy of. That's as close as that's
as close, and that's as close to a TPK as I've ever been. Quite honestly,
had you guys not joined the game yet when Jill TPK'd us twice? I think before you guys joined.
I don't think I was there for that.
Joe.
I don't know.
You guys there for the pineapple of happiness?
The what?
Were you want? Oh no. So we got TPK'd once on the boat, and then we got TPK'd like in the very beginning. We were like 3rd level, and we like blundered into this ambush and just did everything wrong.
Thomas was there because didn't you guys wake up at the stone again or something?
Yeah. We found out that we were eternal, and I was like, my character actually was like, I'm a god.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that complex.
Yeah. I remember that one. Ezra floated around because he was a god that he couldn't touch the ground for like years.
Yeah. By the time I was 6th or 7th level, I just stopped touching the ground. I cast Overland Flight every day and would just like float about 4 inches off the ground.
Then I was like, well, my dog can do that too. So I would cast Fly on my dog and ride my flying dog.
She would run. She'd fly circles around me because she had better maneuverability. All right, so we had planned for this to be about a 2-hour show, and I think. Well, do you guys have any questions about the module? We'll sort of head towards the end game here.
I mean, finding out that the gorillas weren't actually part of the module was a huge revelation for me. I genuinely thought, because you'd mentioned it with your other home game, that it was part of the module.
Yeah, me too. I said in the chat, like, oh, that's totally part of the module. Then you start talking, and I'm like, ignore me.
See, I was suspicious because monkey, pig, gorilla. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So one of the problems I have is that Amy and Nick have been playing with me for a long time, and I only really have like 7 ideas. And so, like, when the Terracotta Warriors show up again, they're like, yeah, we need to find the scroll and all, it's I have to like remember, like, okay, what can't I do? What have I already done with you guys? And that sort of thing. And I mean, they're pros and they would totally just go with whatever I did, but I can't. You don't want to keep telling, well, I mean, you kind of do want to keep telling the same stories because you like that story, but you need to hit different beats. Yes, so Madame Lynn was part of the story, and she was, it says in the book.
Turn her into a giant gorilla that is psychopathic, yep.
It skips that part, and she's not quite as psychopathic as maybe as she became, as she slowly went insane. But she will become attached to the player with the highest appearance. And Emma had the highest appearance, and so I just ran with it, you know. And
never have I been happier that Alexandria is plain.
You know, and I think it describes her as like she's a wheeler dealer. There's a whole thing she like that we kind of papered over, but Brady stole a book from her.
Yeah, and that was the book where we found out about the jade statue and how to
right. And so Brady, you know, she really wants to find Brady, and I was like, you know, is that and because of role playing and things like that, that became less of her drive, and Emma became more of her drive, and then taking over. You know, that was that like when she had a chance to get power, that was a big thing for her.
I do have a question in here.
Yeah.
Somebody did ask about how to manage hit points.
Yeah,
was that?
Make it cinematic.
I'm a big believer in things have a cinematically appropriate number of hit points. You know, there's a whole school of thought of like, this encounter needs to take 15% of your resources and so on and so forth. You know, partly, you know, this is my just stupid idea, but combat is the least interesting thing almost always that happens in games. And so, you know, the more you can either make it interesting for some reason, make it matter to the characters, give it stakes, otherwise get it over with and get out of there. It's also why don't do things like, you know, oh, you're trying to park, make a drive roll. You know, that's just not only roll dice when it matters.
How are we supposed to improve our drive skill, Ezra?
That's like Thomas and his pilot skill.
Yeah.
We played a whole game where all Thomas wanted to do was drive a boat so he could improve his pilot skill.
He was a bootlegger, god damn it.
But yeah, don't like there's, you know, make fights interesting, make them matter to the characters, but don't make them go on for a really long time, and don't, you know, run the table quickly. Like if you're GMing, the biggest favor you can do your players is remember their initiatives and just go boom, boom, boom. You know, just zip through them as much as you can and have them in order, because that, like, the mechanics of combat, kind of system agnostic here, the mechanics of combat are one of the biggest drags on anything.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that some GMs do that I've started doing is say this person is up and this person's on deck.
Yeah.
To make that person be like, you're up next, get ready.
Yeah.
Or the fact that, like, as a player, you should know who you follow, or some GMs go around the table so that it's not hard to know it's coming this way or it's coming this way.
Yeah, it depends if there's initiative or not, but yeah, go around the table.
Yeah, a lot of times in games, I'll just go around, I'll reverse direction going around the table, that sort of thing. Oh, how is the Duchess 5 years later? Some people had a suggestion that the
She
Duchess
married Rogers.
I don't see either of them being okay with that.
I don't either.
I mean, the Duchess, I mean, he's an American, and Rogers, you know,
he's a very common man.
Rogers is married to his work.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is he wouldn't. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Hollister was looking into taking more responsibility to relieving Rogers of some of it, because he knew how it was breaking him down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's still, like, things I love about games, all of that Rogers stuff and all of kind of the back half of this all happened because Nick fumbled.
That 100.
That was like, wow.
That was amazing.
Nick rolled 100, and I was like, okay, you know, and now there's somebody following you, and Rogers was born, and, you know, we kind of went from there.
There he is.
My guess is that 5 years later, the Duchess is on whatever boat one of the PCs is on.
Or we're heading to the wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
Donald and Alexandria get married on a boat, No.
Don't. They would know better than to do that.
No, but while we're going over to see them, we'd be on a boat.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's right. Yeah, and Jack Mackerel asks, running masks at home, what's the best method to prepare as a GM? The best method to prepare as a GM for anything, the first step, read the module, then start over and read it again. And, you know, take some time and like map out what you want to do. Like write down story points that you know you want to have happen. Find the scenes that connect with you. Like I knew the Juju house scene I wanted to have happen. I knew in Peru I wanted the what's his name? I forgot the guy's name, to take people over. I wanted that to happen. You know, so like find what was the drug addict's name? I've forgotten. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra.
Mendoza?
Yeah.
No, Mendoza was the Karasiri, the English guy who was the drug addict, who the guy who turned out to be Nyarlathotep. What was his name?
Oh, geez. Too far in the past. That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
That
you
guy.
know, that guy. Here we go. Larkin, Augustus Larkin.
Oh,
The guy with the tattoo on his chest.
Oh yeah.
The foppish Englishman, heroin
gosh,
addict.
it's been a long time.
Yeah. But like I knew, because he had the dominate spell and I knew I wanted to use that at some point, you know. And so like find little bits that you know you want to have happen. Don't get so in love with something, you know, that you railroad the players. Be on your feet enough to like go where they want to go, because they're going to go to Rome and you're going to have to like come up with stuff in Rome, or they're going to but read it a bunch of times. There's actually a really great in the front of the book, there's a whole section on the backstory that goes through everything the Carlisle expedition did and everything they're doing, and it gives you a timeline that is great and really useful to sort of know, okay, here's when this happens, here's when that happens. Give your players that calendar and let them keep track of what day it is. That's that's hugely useful. And you know, decide how much of a thing you want that to be. Like I liked having the game on a clock. That to me is interesting. Or you could do what they did in that 24-hour one and just see how far you get in 24 hours.
Yeah.
That was insane.
That was nuts.
So it's 8 o'clock. Should we talk a little bit about season? Oh, is there any other questions or anything before?
Well, I had a question. Was there anything that we missed that you particularly wish? No. Anything that we missed that you particularly wish that we had hit?
So Australia has some fun stuff. So you go to Australia and you end up in this like mine that is a city of ancient aliens, and you can find some like ray guns and stuff like that, and you can fight some other things. But you know, at the end of the day, it's a fun scene. It has a couple fun scenes, but it doesn't bring anything new. So no, I think actually, if anything, I kind of wish that I had I'd taken in the first half of the game the stance that I took in the second half, where I was like, you know, and you have a long sea voyage. You know, I think I as funny as the idea is that every time you're on a boat something awful happens, you know, that kind of grinds, and it can become one note. And so you know, if anything, I might have pared it back a little. I think Rome is a great example of that. You know, now Don Julio was awesome, and that ended up coming back and paying off in a really cool way. Yeah. And so, you know, sometimes that side jaunt will create something that becomes awesome and will carry forward. Other times it doesn't. You know, and I think, you know, less is more in some ways. Don't feel like don't feel like you have to, just because it's written in the book, you don't have to do it. You know, like go and do other things. Find your own ways to do things. So
is that the issue with the module though? Because you know what I mean? At some point I was also just like, okay, so now that we know what we have to do, we have to find the thing, find the place, do the ritual, lock the, you know what I mean? Once we got the 4 things down and did it once, it kind of felt like, how repetitive is the module where you're just like, I just basically go to these places and rinse and repeat now.
Well, but the
And
book
so it's
didn't, right? You were saying that the book didn't do it that way.
right. Yeah. In the book,
Okay.
you only do that. The capstone ritual is specific to Egypt, and it traps the Black Pharaoh. And in most cases, that actually happens. You know, that's kind of that's the climax of a lot of the games.
Okay.
Because technically, going by the ritual as they have it in the book, as soon as you seal that pyramid, they can't really do what they want to do. Now they've still got a big bomb and everything, you know. So the bomb is actually part of the game. The weapon, the idea is that there's a rift in the sky, and not Penhew, the other guy,
Stanford.
not Stanford, the guy who we killed off. But anyway, he's going to shoot it up there, tear the rift open, and that's going to bring Azathoth out, you know, and that's going to end the world. Right. And so, you know, there's usually the big finale at Grey Dragon Island, but really most games in Egypt with that scene. And I really thought about it, but then, you know, you kind of did Egypt so early.
Mm-hmm.
And
often we were really tired of Egypt by the time we were done with it.
And, you know, there was also the point of, you know, you guys messed Egypt up so much that you know, we needed to figure out how to get you a win.
Yes. No, that was good.
Did I miss any questions here from the chat? I don't think so.
I think we went back and got them.
Yeah. So let's spend a little time talking about season 2, and then let's go home.
I am home.
Well, all right, yeah. So season 2, we have decided we're headed to the Old West. We're going to be playing Call of Cthulhu Down Darker Trails, which is Call of Cthulhu in the Old West. And so the idea of this game is I'm sort of taking the X-Files as the framework for it. Where, you know, there's going to be an overarching mythology, but there are going to be Monster of the Week episodes where it's just, you know, short hits. And so the idea is that, you know, we're going to be playing in like 2 or 3 episode chunks of, you know, like this story is being told in this contained area. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is that this is going to let us have guest stars come in and play. And maybe they're only here for a couple episodes, you know. Some people you recognize from some other Quests and Chaos games want to play here. Thomas wants to play, so we're probably going to have him be a part of it, because, you know, we'll have to figure out when cilantro came into the Old West. You know,
He's brought it with him from the old country.
You know, that actually that was another favorite scene. Him spraying his blood all over that cruise ship, trying to find the guy with the hand of glory. That was a good scene. And of course, Thomas is the reason you are called the Great Dane Society.
Yep, because he meant to say Great Dame Society.
Yep. Because it was all women and he just can't talk.
Oh man.
Man.
And so yeah, we're gonna have and as I often do, we're literally gonna play the adventure out of the book. For the first one. Who knows where we'll end up, but that'll be the framework. And so we'll be we'll do that starting in January. But next week we're gonna do character creation. We'll do that here live, so you can watch us put it all together and figure that stuff out. And yeah, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be fun.
Man.
I think
It's gonna be great.
People are already saying who should appear in the next version.
Oh no.
Sheriff McGillicuddy and Deputy Rogers.
I was
Annie
joking.
Oakley accent, huh?
There you
I'm
go.
not sure if I can pull that off. Although I do have a
Uh,
character in mind who's kind of an Annie Oakley character, so stay tuned.
And so the goal next week is to actually kind of teach people how to make a character. So we're going to walk through the steps of character creation, talking about how you can build your character and choices you're going to make and that sort of thing. And then we're also going to do some of the stuff that many of us have taken to doing to sort of connect the various groups and how you bring the players together, so that you can go a little bit beyond you meet in a bar. Although now I'm just going to say you meet in a bar. I think that's going to.
I mean,
Technically, my
There we
character
go.
would be in the bar,
There we
so-
have to be there in the bar.
we have
Um,
to meet in a saloon.
the real
Out of
question
the
is,
Saloon, yeah.
is Emma going to is Amy going to play another Emma?
Play an
Find
Emma,
out
I
next
dare you.
week. Find out next week.
Next
I mean,
week.
Um,
Next week.
So yeah, I saw there was, what did somebody else ask there that I missed? It was something about, why didn't we go to Australia? I think I said that that it was
Everyone's
kind of
correct.
more of the same at that point.
The saloon. We meet in a saloon, not a bar.
I mean, of course.
I will say, so Dead Boy, my home game, they just went to Australia, and man, is it hard to have 3 Australian NPCs and make them sound distinct. Like, it's they're all like, wait, was that Alan that said that, or was that Dodge? I can't tell. I'm like, no, that was Dodge. See, he's the one who like takes the G's off of it. Oh, it's so like I said, Australia has some fun points, but at a certain point it's kind of gilding the lily. And when when Thomas and Amy and I sort of started talking about when, what kind of time frame made sense, we had to start thinking about, okay, so we literally had a meeting where we said, okay, we have 7 sessions left. What are we going to do? And I really actually enjoyed that process and looking at it from a more producerly viewpoint. And did I get everybody's things that had to happen? I can't remember. I think I did, right?
I mean, you hit Alexandria and most of what was happening with Donald. So
Yeah.
I mean, there were 2 at least.
And I think we got Silvano, so that was yours. And Joan just wanted more power, so that was like at that meeting, I asked everybody, what's one thing that has to happen for your character before we end this story? And then I was like, and whatever it is, that's gonna happen. And that's a great GMing tool. Like I do that at con games, where when we take our break at the half of the game, I ask that same question of the players. And if they and whatever they say, I'm like, that's going to happen. Whatever you want to have happen is going to happen. And it's a way that you can, even in short games, the players can have buy-in and feel like they're driving the story, which is great. We're reliving all of the Australian mythos creations now that
Bears.
As has been pointed out, Australia doesn't need the help. It's already basically a mythos wasteland.
Yeah.
one of the scenes that they had in the home game was a guy just telling them all the various ways they could die in camp. And their bush ranger, his final advice was, my advice is just don't leave your tent at night. If you have to pee, have a cannon in your tent. You're going to be better off, mate. That was his. So they're all terrified of the Australian outback.
Wow.
Also, as for me personally, the Australia episode has something that I can't stand, which is random encounters.
Oh.
It does the thing it has like, you're going to go on this journey and roll a die and see what happens, and that's just not how I like to tell
Follow
stories.
it though. You just pick the encounters you like, and
Well-
you roll the dice, and you're like, this is what you come across.
There
That's
you
what
go.
ends up happening. Yes.
And then we
That's what
say,
ends
you
up
didn't look at the dice roll.
And you say, shut the fuck up or I'll kill you
That's-
all.
yeah, one of the benefits of playing remotely is I can just make the roll whatever I want.
Nice.
Although I never do. I should.
Oh man. Oh, yeah, a couple people are talking about, will time traveling Emma and Joan show up? Do we have to mess with Joan and Emma? Do we have to clean up their messes?
I think,
I mean,
if poor Nick, who like created 3 different characters, none of whom died, and like was dreading the moment that we all wanted where they would all 3 be in a room together. Because I'll tell you, as a GM, like the hardest thing to do is to have a conversation with yourself. Like when it comes up and you're just like, wow, what I don't. But so probably funny as that would be, I think we're gonna try and avoid that stuff and let people get good at playing one character as opposed to trying to play several.
I managed to get that out of the way pretty early with Alexandria in the same room as Doyle said, even if Alexandria was in fact unconscious and didn't have to talk to him.
It's true. It's true.
Yes.
Gosh, I had, that's the question. All right. So we'll start. All right, Joan, you are going to establish the over under, and then everybody else is going to guess over or under. So I'm going to give you a stat, you're going to give me a number, and then they're all going to say if it's over or under. And chat, you can play too. So number of Emmas that Emma actually had. What do you think the number is?
The number of Emmas that Emma actually had, like a sheet for, or
no. How many
Like,
Emmas?
how many times
Remember, an
did I roll?
Emma is rolling,
an
using
M.
inspiration,
Okay.
and fumbling.
Hold on.
So how many Emmas
Hmm.
did Emma have? You establish the number.
All right. I'm going to say 7.
7.
Over.
Nick, over. Tiana,
Under.
Over. I fumbled
9.
a
The answer
lot.
is 9.
Wow.
That's the number I had in my head.
You
I'm surprised it was that few. It felt like I
Well, and
fumbled a
Emma's
lot.
really hard. Now, all
That's
right,
why
Amy.
that's why I made that number. I thought that was a good number.
So Amy's, which again are a failure but not a fumble. How many Amy's did Nick have? Tiana, you start the over under.
I'm gonna say 8.
By the way, keeping track of this was like the hardest thing about
Yeah.
this game.
Okay, you say 8?
All right,
I say
8.
8.
Over.
Amy, over or under?
Over.
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 Nick,
I'm gonna say under. My thing, I rolled Knicks.
there's a reason they're called Nicks. The answer was 5. It was under.
Wow.
Oh.
I typically rolled the same thing. It became so annoying.
Yeah, that's why we call them Nicks.
Uh-huh.
And let's see here. Do I have one more?
Do you have the number of Nicks? Because I think I would go with 5. The number of times
Don't have the number of Nicks came up. It took a little while for us to recognize that phenomenon.
Well, we will have to catch that in campaign too. It's the Amy's, the Emmas, and the Nicks.
That's right.
I mean, I know I think the game before last, I think I got 2. Like it's
Yeah. That was something.
Like 5. Because I remember you having 2 like together, and I was like, it feels like you would have somewhere between 4 and 5.
You rolled one in what are Ezra's? Somebody
I was about to ask, what are Ezra's?
I don't know.
Are Ezra's or don't roll dice?
People are like, don't forget.
What? Oh, good.
Oh,
Did I do that? Wow.
yes.
oh,
At least
anytime you
once.
lift up the dice, you go hoo, 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 and you,
Oh, bird. No, those are called birds of paradise. That's not an Ezra.
Yeah.
That's a BOP right there.
BOP or Andrea's, which?
Oh.
It depends on who you are, because for him it's a Birds of Paradise. For us, it's Andrea.
it's got to be an Andrea.
Oh, nice. I like
Andrea?
it. Yeah, we'll keep track of those. Those are pretty sweet. Oh yeah, I remember. Do you remember the drinking game?
Which one?
They came
Yeah.
up with a drinking game for us, and it was like every time I say everything fine, you have to drink
Yes.
water.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yes.
There was a whole thing. I'd forgotten about that until somebody mentioned it in there.
Or every time that you say, I'd like to make you an offer, and I immediately respond with, oh, gods.
And then I say yes.
I have to do that more. I forgot. So running this module was one of the hardest things I've ever done, between cast changes, world reboots, just all the stuff. It was
And then pandemic.
And pandemic, it was hard. And like I have a natural, well, no, not a natural, but I see all the ways that I could have done things so much better. You know, things like remembering the names of NPCs, or, you know, or remembering the basic timeline of the game. And, you know, great, you guys were on top of stuff, so you would always remind me and that sort of thing. But like, it was, I'm looking forward to, you know, not having a giant, you know, in some ways this module is somewhat fragile. You know, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen and a lot of balls in the air that you have to keep in the air. And I'm looking forward to a little more storytelling and a little more sort of, you know, having a chance to do what we want to do. Yes, of course, Lucifer reminds us this is episode 69.
Yeah.
I will follow up on what Tigerion said, though. And I know this was one of the hardest things that you've done, and there's been a lot of reasons why it's been difficult. But this has also been, I mean, this is one of the games, right? Masks of Nyarlathotep is one of the iconic games. And
True.
getting to play through this game with this group of people and have it end as well as it did, this has been incredible.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ezra. And thank you, Amy and QNC, of course, and everyone who's been here. This has just been incredible. I mean, It's been one of the big like role-playing things for me. This has been amazing.
I mean, I think I said this last time, between playing and GMing, I've run this 3 times and this is the first time I've finished it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Very exciting.
It's very hard to finish. Yeah. I mean, we finished Murder on Orient Express.
There will never be a better ending. That was the best ending. Oh.
Thomas.
It's never gonna get better.
We almost
that was
finished.
horrible. Everyone was so mad at me. I didn't like it at all.
It was
both of you.
Yeah. I mean, it was outstanding.
Excuse me getting all sappy, but you guys have been amazing. This has been just a great way to end the game.
No problem. This is awesome, guys.
I really, even though it is literally on rails, I really like Horror on the Orient Express. And even though it makes no logical sense, because it's literally like we get off the train and something horrible happens to us, and then we get back on the train.
Because we never learn.
You know, and somehow magically the Orient Express is waiting for us this whole time.
Until Thomas burns it down.
Until Thomas blows it up. So,
I mean, it's the Old West. We have to get on a train.
Yeah. Right? We're going to have to get on the train. It's going to be great.
There will definitely be trains.
Stagecoaches, trains, all that.
Stagecoaches, trains, and horses.
But I can't,
My character will like the brothels, the gambling.
I have to talk to you at some point, Amy, because there's a character that I kind of want to tie to yours, my secondary character, who I think would be, they'd be interesting to tie along.
I don't know if we could do the Orient Express again.
Season 3, yes.
I cannot end it the same way.
So when I started running Horror on the Orient Express for them, I was running like the old school version that was even more on rails. And then I got the new version, and the new version, like when I was running the original, I was like, oh, I'm going to do flashbacks. This will be fun. And then I got the new version and it had flashbacks in it. And I was like, oh, all right, well, but the flashbacks were like the best. I
blame the flashbacks.
Yeah.
The flashbacks were like my favorite part. It was crazy. Well, I think Tigerion, we're actually going to have everybody's, maybe not during character creation, but everybody's going to have 2 characters just in case. And then, you know, so we can, we'll probably do something similar like we did with the B team, where we can introduce the new characters and have them in. And then also if we have, you know, if say Thomas wants to play for a week or something like that, we can bring in and have a rotating cast of guest stars.
Yeah.
I'm
one character for me this time.
Well, now I have to kill him.
Yep. Brutally.
I'm going to put it out there right now. Andrea of the Burbs, I want you to make us a version of the Great Dane Society logo with a 10-gallon hat on the dog.
There you go.
Please.
There you go.
And the 2 little ears sticking out.
Oh my God.
Just take this dog and put a 10-gallon hat right there.
Yeah.
Oh
That
yeah,
would
I
be
could have used
epic.
the
coaster
instead of
that
the-
should be on your desk.
well, but this, I just wanted to show off my wife's handiwork.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I always enjoy her stuff.
Oh, somebody said with the bandana. That would be good too.
Oh yeah, that's good with a with a
bandana.
a bandana there.
Lucifer. Oh yes, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. Any final thoughts?
This was epic, but the next one's gonna be even cooler.
Thank you to the community.
Yeah. Really, actually, that's a great point.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
Candy
guys
coming out here.
for sticking with us. The fact that 37 people have sat here and watched us essentially talk about our character for 2 hours. Like, my hat's off to you, sad souls.
Yeah,
You're all delightful.
I am grateful to have taken Alexandria to a fairly happy ending, actually, all things considered. So I'm pleased about that, and I look forward to seeing what my next characters have in mind.
Is that you, Amy, or Thomas that is going off on his Scooby-Doo apostasy?
I don't ask that
That's
bullshit.
Thomas and his Scooby gang, Scooby relatives.
If you ever get a chance to meet Thomas, tell him how much you like Scrappy Doo. Just that
Ruh-roh.
that will start a conversation that you will want to be a part of. I promise you, my friend.
Oh man.
Oh, the Baroness. I forgot the G.I. Joe moment is.
How dare!
This is actually part of
Mr. Clues
Thomas.
on the GI Joe moment.
This is part of Thomas's thing, actually. He brought this up. He connected to this this video of like the worst GI Joe stories, and I had totally forgotten. Like, there was an episode of the GI Joe cartoon where Cobra wanted to take over the world, but most of the stuff they were trying to do was to get the money to take over the world. And Cobra held a telethon. And so like Destro is answering the phone, and they convince people to like make donations for their philanthropic work. And like and the Joes are like the Joes literally roll in and just blow up the telethon set. It's fantastic. So yes, a brief G.I. Joe moment of the Cobra, the wonderfulness that is the Cobra telethon.
Sorry, Jay Matthews. Jay Matthews is trolling in the.
I saw that. I saw that.
Yep.
Muffins are fantastic.
So it turns out the G.I. Joe episode with all the pets was actually a comic. It was the Image comic series. That was it was not one of the TV series.
Gotcha.
Oh, time traveling. Yeah, Serpentor shows up in the Old West. All right, this is getting silly, and I think
Getting?
getting. Yes, that's right. That's right. Friends, you were awesome. I could not think of a better way to spend my Saturday nights. You quite literally have helped get me through this shelter in place. And I really appreciate the Saturdays that I get to spend with each of you. And I look forward to spending more of them. And I look even more forward to being in a room with you again sometime soon with cool lights behind us. And,
Yeah.
Yes.
and
I miss you guys.
Until then, and same to all of you. You have all I am by nature a curmudgeon, and I don't do like internet chatting and all that stuff, but the Discord community that Quests and Chaos has been so awesome, and I just enjoy being part of it, and that is very uncharacteristic for me, and it's a testament to the family and community that Thomas and Amy have built over, gosh, it's more than 2 years now, right?
It is.
Wow.
I was seeing like a reminder of like the first time we played Gloomhaven way back.
Wow.
Someday, Tossie and James, someday.
Can I plug something real quick before we say goodnight for the
Oh
night?
yeah, man, I forgot totally.
So, on the same vein as Call of Cthulhu, Tom, who we miss very much from GDS, and a few other faces that you may recognize from the Discord, and I are doing a podcast. It is called The Redacted Reports. It is a Delta Green real play podcast, and it's a little more edited and produced than any of the other podcasts that you may be familiar with QNC, because I got my hands on it and got a little bit obsessive, a little bit. So there are music cues, there are sound effects, there's all of the little things. I take out the parts where we go a little bit too far afield and put those into the outtakes, because those are fun, but take away from the story. And theoretically, we're launching this week.
We've been lucky enough to hear some of this. It's fantastic.
I'm really excited about it
fun.
because, I mean, we have Seth, we have Ben, who are Squeal the Bard. Seth is NGC 457, and then Tom is the handler. I'm one of the players, and then we got Tom's cousin, Joseph, in to play with us. And we have an amazing chemistry. And what's really fun about it for me is that we are all we are players who are playing professionals, and so we handle things in a very professional way. It might be one of the most serious QNC podcasts you'll ever hear. We have silly moments, but they're more because Rooster likes to be like, aliens. No, really.
It's so good.
But I've been having a lot of fun editing it and putting it together, and I'm excited that it's finally live and in color. It's gonna be great. I'm really excited about it. Check it out. The episodes are like an hour to an hour 15 each, so they're pretty consumable.
Yeah,
they're like chips.
And
Snacky.
The launch date is?
The launch date theoretically should be Wednesday, the 16th, I believe, the day.
If the button is clicked, that's right.
Well,
if she's allowed to click the button.
Here's the thing. I have officially released episode 0 because that was what was required to do in order to submit it to like Spotify and iTunes and Google Play and all of the rest of it. So we'll see when episode 0 actually comes out, but the first 3 episodes will be releasing all on December 23rd. So you guys can have a heck of a lot of content to listen to on the 23rd. Merry Christmas from Delta Green.
Merry Cthulhu-mas.
Very Cthulhu.
Merry
Yes.
Cthulhu-mas. I like that better.
Nice face, Nick.
While we're plugging things, I'm gonna, mainly from my accountability, I'm gonna say that I am also releasing a podcast. I have a GMing podcast.
When?
So it theoretically exists, and I've recorded 2 of them. And the plan. So I recorded my first episode with Eugenio Vargas, who is the storyteller they call the outstanding streamed game Into the Motherlands, which is a really good. They're actually making the game system as they're playing, which is really cool. There's a whole development team, not the player, but they created the game system for this really cool. Cipher of Tyr is doing it, and a bunch of really neat people. And so it's essentially just me spending an hour to an hour and a half talking with GMs about GMing. And it's called Keep the Game Moving. And it is, I'm going to release the Eugenio one probably next week. And then in January, every other week, we're going to have a new one out. And I've already gotten a couple of Quests and Chaos GMs who've said they're going to be part of it. So I'll be talking with them. That's your plug. Anything to plug, Amy? Anything you want to plug? Nick, will you be at the Laugh Shack in?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be at Roosters. Doing stand up, 2 shows, 2 drink minimum.
Try the veal.
Exactly.
It's delicious.
Nope, I think that's it. I think just the fact that we're going to be back next year with a whole new slate of shows, and that we're going to ask everybody to watch, subscribe, listen, hit the like button, share it with your friends, and that we're going to do some games over the holidays and just be back next year with all new stuff.
Join our Patreon if you haven't. Quests and Chaos. What is it? Patreon.com, Quests and Chaos, I think it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. YouTube, Twitch, all of we've gotten so much love from there. So many subscribers, people in the comments. It's outstanding. We love to just talk with people about, this is what we do, nerd out about the cool things we've been doing. So, we're happy to keep talking with them.
This is one of the rare times where I actually get to like talk about characters and no one tells us to shut the fuck up.
Yes.
It's
one of my favorite parts of Big Bad Con is Big Bad Con, the best gaming convention in the Bay Area, bar none. They actually have a charity booth called Tell Me About Your Character. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to hear about your character. So you pay like $5 to charity and someone will enthusiastically listen and ask questions about your character. It's outstanding. I did it. I was like, let me tell you about my high school D&D character.
Nice.
And you make a donation to a great charity. I love it. It's fantastic.
I would totally man that booth. Though,
I would. Yeah, I would.
About other people's characters is interesting to me.
Yeah, well, it's a great way to volunteer.
I would pay the money, and I would literally, my goal would be like, your job is to not laugh unless it's really funny, and then try. Like, I would be like, okay, that wasn't good enough. What's the next bullshit I can come up with? Here's new $5. All right, let's try this again.
Amy does this and questions the sincerity of the volunteer. Outstanding.
Was that Thomas laughing? Was that Thomas or Ed?
That is,
oh my God, that's
there's
awesome.
not a better note to end on.
Yes.
So, goodbye, internet friends, until 2021.
Good night, friends.
Good night.
Bye.